Yeah, I mean, the whole east side town's filling up. There's 1,000 houses coming on the east side of town, and they're building just as fast as they can build them. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to tell everybody it's constantly going up every year, but nobody listening because we cut on 4 or 5 houses a week. I mean, they're building these subdivision 80 lots at the time, and when we put power in, it ain't but 2-3 months, and 80 houses are done. We got another section. We got another section that in just the next couple of weeks we're gonna start. It's 50 houses. Huh? What about it? No, they're not on the east side of town.
A cement plant has an extremely low load factor. There wouldn't.
They're not gonna pull like all them houses.
No. And the houses, even though they have a low load factor, they pull on a continuous basis.
Especially when it's 95 degrees.
Well, when there's time before we go, people listen.
But there could be a time. It could be 2-2. The rate they get 4 of the votes in the time. You would have to be based here to
They don't want me up there.
Is he coming?
But I reckon not.
Jules? There's the he's still messed up.
I wanted to get some input from the Collin Festival because this is not fall. It's supposed to be fall.
Appreciate everybody's patience. We've got a few technical difficulties we're going to work through here. We'll be with you shortly.
They just want me to okay. I can go back to it. I can get it open.
Okay, I appreciate your patience. I'd like to welcome everyone to our May 12th, 2025 Governing Board meeting. We have two people that are not couldn't make it tonight. The mayor is still recovering, and Commissioner Newell is out sick. So I'll let you guys know that. So, Madam Clerk, could you do the roll call, please?
Do you have to officially call it to order?
Okay, I'm so sorry. Like to call the board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Newborn, Mayor Pro Tem Langley,
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Goff,
Here.
Commissioner Connor,
Here.
Commissioner Newell. All right.
Okay, you good?
Yep.
Okay, and again, I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and do our protocol for our public comments. I've only got one person that signed up to speak tonight on the public comments. Is that all I have, is just one person? If you want to sign up, let us know now, and then I can put it back out there and you can sign up. Okay? Let's go ahead and go into our invocation. Commissioner Connor is going to do our invocation. Please bow your heads.
Eternal Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for enabling us to come to conduct a meeting. Please let it be carried out according to your will. Guide and protect us as we travel to and forth. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, board, has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the agenda for tonight? Or are there going to be any changes to the agenda?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have two changes I'd like to make.
Okay.
One is to add Rick Vandermoss from Electricities to make a short presentation for us. And also then to strike and reset the closed session, reschedule.
Okay, so we're moving Mr. Vandermoss to item C of presentations,
Yes.
and then we're going to basically move the closed session to the next board meeting.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other changes? So I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Okay, the first thing we're going to bring up is Mr. Richardson, Josh.
Josh Richardson, 280 Bowman Circle. I'm gonna talk to y'all tonight about, I guess it's action item 6, the financial health rate and considerations of the town's water and sewer system. I got a couple questions and requests. The data that's shown in the meeting packet tonight, it doesn't separate the number of water-only customers and sewer-only customers and broken down by residential versus commercial and in-town versus out-of-town. And I find it's got to be difficult to make proper decisions concerning the future of the town's infrastructure and building without having those separated. The next thing is, of the 38 accounts being assessed a sewer availability charge, I can only assume that those accounts have septic systems. And I'd like to, I think that the addresses of those accounts should be published so that people can know where in town there are sewer systems at. And the fourth thing is, I'd like the addresses of the 48 out-of-town customers using the town's sewer system. And I request that the town publish this information so that the rest of the citizens in town know who is getting the benefits of our sewer system while not contributing to the tax base. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay, we did add a item to our public comments. That's from the town manager to basically, when we have public comments that come up during the board meeting, a lot of times the citizens don't know what happened to those comments. So the town manager, instead of going back months and months and months, each month he's going to view the last month's public comments and give us some insight on how it was addressed. So, Mr. Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm not sure about the legalities of using names, but I can get that information to you. But basically, we had one person that asked about how to get the backyard cart service on the garbage, and she has been informed of that. Matter of fact, we did it during the meeting, and then it was told to her again before the meeting was over. So that's taken care of. The person that, matter of fact, 4 people spoke on the situation that was about the deposit. That's been taken care of. Everything is fine with that. The owners of the local salon that had a high electric bill, they had asked customer service before the meeting, and customer service said check to see if your emergency heat is on, and indeed it was on, and that led to the 3 high bills. They did have an energy audit, and they are in possession of that information, and I have a copy of it too if you'd like to see it later. Let's see, and that was it.
Okay, so on the one citizen we had that was referring to the deposit issues, all that was basically, it was all handled, and we redone our utility services agreement as well, so that resolved a lot of issues that we were getting feedback on. Okay, great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to go into is presentations. This is the official recognition of the museum memorial. Ms. Doris Connor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. I am here on behalf of the Ayden Historical and Art Society. And our mission is to preserve and celebrate the history of the community and the rich traditions of the peoples and artistic endeavors. So in 2025, we're requesting the city to recognize our 10th anniversary as the Ayden Historical and Art Society. Not the museum, but the society itself in which the museum was created out of. Our celebration will occur on October 11th, 2025 at the Ayden Museum, which began out of that Ayden Historical and Art Society by Andrea Norris. We will begin at 9 a.m. and end at 2 p.m., utilizing both the community building, which will highlight the Ayden artisans such as George Snyder, he's a master quilter, and Phil Barth, a master artist. He's the person who has done the artwork for the mural, as well as him and George will be in the community building showing how they go about their arts. George has quilts in the museum, and he still does, and he also has quilts in the park. Phil also has designed the mural himself, and he will be showing how that mural has been designed once he gets into the, once you go into the community building. The museum will also be open for visitors with refreshments as well. The formal presentation for the mural will take place at 10:30 on October 11th, and we will have recognition of that by Mayor Ivory Mewborn, and also followed by that will be the museum director, Andrea Norris, and she will give more detailed information about that mural. Members of the Pitt County Arts Council at Emerge will be attending, as well as members from the Pitt County Historical Society, as they've expressed interest in how that mural has been completed. As it is hurricane season, our mural was designed with weather in mind, and the celebration date will be moved to October 18th if there's a situation that we can't use it on the 11th. We've got that completed. So the recap is just that we're requesting, we have a formal presentation of the mural. I don't know if you've all seen it, but there's a mural that's going to be done, if you've ever been to the museum, of the Ayden Depot. And that was like 1894, I think, or something like that, late 1890s. And so that presentation will take place Saturday, October 11th, 2025, from 9 to 2 p.m. at the museum and the community building. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much, and we really appreciate everything you guys do,
Okay.
and, with your committee and, of course, the museum. And I have had an opportunity to take a look at how some of the mural is going, and it's just phenomenal. And it's, truly phenomenal. Well, we appreciate everything you do, okay?
Okay, thank you. No questions?
Any questions?
We're good? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
What I think we should do is get Molly to bring the guy from Main Street, one of his guys in retail, 3 or 4 types of government work.
I'm gonna go ahead and bring Mallory up.
Yeah.
Okay, the next presentation we have is identifying the structure for Ayden Main Street. Mr. Mallory, can you come forward?
It takes a little while, but I'll get up there.
We got time.
Yeah, you must check it. I have with me tonight Chuck Halsell from NC Main Street. He's our area rep. He's going to answer any questions you all have. I know with Mr. Newell not present tonight, that may cause an issue, but I do want to bring a couple things up to you from the last meeting first. So, first off, I think.
Do you want me to show the stuff?
No, not just yet. There's probably a little bit of a disconnect on how we do things based on the way she suggested about grants and so forth. So I kind of want to go over that real quick, if you all don't mind. First of all, we identify a problem. Now, that may be identified by you all as the town commission or as one of the town employees if there's a problem or an issue. That's where we start. Then we look at ways to solve those issues, and that includes looking through grants, looking at every possible scenario. So that we just don't do it willy-nilly. So then we get to that point, we check the cost, and we go back to the board and we start checking with Mideast, who they're a grant writer for us. If it's water or sewer, we talk to McDavid. We go to NC East, which is another entity that we have an option of grant writing with. ENC Alliance, Pitt County Economic Development, or Pitt County itself, because they offer several grants. So it's not just that we just say, hey, here it is, we can't solve it, we can't find a grant. We look around, we get grant reports every week from a company we apply with. We deal with Placid ID, which, we can pretty much ping anything to the day and the time at your doorfront. So in other words, we can ping every phone call there is or every cell phone that comes into this town. So it's not like we're professionals and we know what we're doing. She kind of claimed that we didn't, and I take exception to that. So want to explain that. The other thing, staff is always, especially we have a wonderful staff here. We're always discussing problems between us or issues that we face. Stephen may know a whole lot more about something than I do. Scott, same way. HR may solve a personnel problem that I don't have a clue about. You see what I'm saying? So we have professionals to ask, and we do that. And then we can go outside the realm of the town and ask professionals. They're all over, especially Pitt County. So there are 3 or 4 job boards in Pitt County that we can ask legally how we handle situations, or where our jobs are, where our people are, or where grants are. So there are places to go that we utilize on a daily basis. She kind of led you all to believe that we didn't, but we do. So I wanted to clear that up. A couple things that she made comment to that I want to clear up. First of all, she started off with Main Street as it's a community-driven endeavor. It truly is not. It's if you want to put the Main Street map up for me. Now the map. Yeah. So that right there is a picture of downtown Main Street. So I counted the other day a little bit over 37 buildings. And that's 37 lots, 37 buildings, 37 commercial slots. Most of all are privately owned, with the exception of what the town owns and what the churches own. There are also approximately 17 homes included in the Main Street, which, as of this point, Main Street Ayden has done nothing for the homeowners. It's always been the business owners that we've catered to. So I want you to know that's it. That's, now the realm of what NC Main Street can do along with commerce is we can kind of go outside that for some grants and so forth. But again, those grants are tied to not only an upfront money to play with, but also tied to jobs. And she said that was not a thing, and that's why he's here tonight, to tell you where things are wrong. All right, for that matter. Real quick, let's talk about some T-Mobile grants. She said the Pocket Park was funded by a T-Mobile grant. It wasn't. I've checked. Nowhere I can find a T-Mobile grant was ever written for that. But I can tell you how it was funded. Number one, I wrote a $10,000 grant to Electric Cities. That was funded. The $10,000 grant to ENC Alliance, that was funded for that park. And then an additional $5,000 the following year from Electric Cities out of my department that finished up that. Then the town used their money to finish it up. So that's where the Pocket Park came from. She also said we didn't write T-Mobile grants. I have 2 currently that have been submitted last year and another one fixed to go in this year. They didn't get funded, but we're still putting them in. So let's talk about Digital Equity Competitive Grant. There was another one on here. So understand anything that was funded by, let's see what it is there. The Jobs and Infrastructure bill that was put out by the last president doesn't exist anymore. Most of these grants are tied to those on the federal level. So they're history until something changes. So, and we've looked at all those before. She brought up digital grant. Well, first year I was here, Steve Harold had something going with one of the internet companies. Didn't work. The next time, town manager, I think it was Matthew Livingston, who's now the town manager at Goldsboro, had something going on with MetroNet. That fell through. We are covered by internet in downtown by 2 companies at least, maybe 3 now. They would promise to do a drop-in where you could walk down the street possibly and have a drop-in. One time, but you had to pay for it every month after that. It wasn't something we were going to get free, and this grant wouldn't have covered what we were trying to do. They would try to help you get infrastructure, but they wouldn't pay you for the existing month-to-month bill, so that you know that. Then she mentioned the National Association of Realtors, and all this is on the paper she gave you all. Max grant of that was $7,500, mainly and only for outdoor public spaces. That's all it can be used with. So I thought, well, that's nice. Let's look at, because I've never heard of that one. I won't lie to you. So I called the Coastal Plains Association of Realtors, which is the National Realtors Association in this area from 95 to the ocean. I talked to their main man, never heard of it. No one has ever filed one of those from this area, and he is in charge, and he never heard of it. So he's researching that to find out more about it. And again, I've never heard of it, so I'm not saying she's wrong. But the max was $7,500, and it was only for outdoor spaces, okay? Next you mentioned the Lowe's. No, I'm sorry, next you mentioned Safe Streets. That has to go through NC Highway, and basically what it does, it recognizes problem areas and intersections, and then they go about furnishing some funds to do the study on it and to correct it, i.e. the Snow Hill problem we had when they first put the connector roads together. And as you all remember, we had a death or two there. They jumped in and fixed that. That's what that money's for. So it's not going to fix a downtown street, okay, so that you're aware. The next was the Lowe's, and I do remember, I think it was 2000. Steve Harrell was the town manager. Sam Jones, Gwendy, and a bunch of us got together and put together a video of downtown. Lowe's was in conjunction with one of those home repair things on TV. And we submitted that. I'm sorry, thank you. So we submitted that for that. We didn't get it. Pretty much all the luster died. But I've listed a bunch of reasons and non-reasons not to do a Lowe's grant here, and it's 3 pages long, so I'm not going to read that for you. So then it brings us to the NC Rural grant, where she said we had $850,000 to $950,000 laying at their feet. Isn't that what she said? They told her, well, it is an $850,000 grant right now. It may go to $950,000 in the future, but it is 5% local match, and it is tied to a $12,500 per job saved or per job created. And I'm going to let Charles explain that to you about how they come up with the jobs using one of our buildings here. And the other thing was the retail gap. When I first came here the first 3 years, I passed out retail gaps to you all probably twice a year that I got from Electric Cities and a couple other companies. I get them every month. You're welcome to see them. Basically, it tells us what people are not spending here or spending somewhere else because we don't have a conglomeration of high-level restaurants such as Chili's or, the corporate structure, say. We don't have a Belk. All those, and those funds are what they do. That's what a gap says. It measures how much money that the people in this town have to go out of town to spend. Well, we're 4 miles away from Winterville, and that's pretty much where the commercial gap gets busted or on into Greenville. So that's not a big thing. Anytime you want those, and I do pass them out anytime anybody calls me about wanting to put a business in Ayden, I pass those out, either email them or hand them to them. So those are a few things that I wanted to get resolved. And there were several others. I'm not going to go into them tonight. But I want Charles to explain this rural development, economic development grant real quick so that everybody understands that.
Okay, well, first of all, let me explain. I am not our grants person.
Can we get you to state your name?
Yeah, sure.
And your address for the record?
Charles Housel. I'm a Main Street Program Specialist with the North Carolina Department of Commerce, and my address is in Greenville. Where was I? I was just gonna say I'm not our main grants person, so I know enough to be dangerous, and I know enough to probably cause havoc in a room with it. But the new downtown rural development grant that he was referring to, that was the $850,000 potential, and he's exactly right that it is $12,500 per job in what the project area. So the project area, if it was, say, a town hall, okay, you could count all the jobs that work in and out of town hall, and times $12,500, that would be the amount of grant that you would be eligible for. If it's a sidewalk structure or something of that nature, it could be, we have had them in the past where they've tied all the jobs of as part of a block. Like, say it's 5 buildings, because this section of the sidewalk is going to get redone, so it benefits all of those businesses, benefits all of those jobs. So whatever that number is, times 12,500, in addition to a 5% local match. As of right now, that's really the only grant opportunity we have through Commerce that is has not been put on hold, or that is even funded. So I'm not sure what other types of information I can give you. Or
That's the key one, in a prime example, let's say that we won $850 for this bank building we just received. So if you look across the street and you only got a certain, the block that it faces. Is
well,
that
if
correct?
it was for the bank building, it would be the number of jobs that bank building is going to house when the
Housing
project is
future,
done.
but it would also include the jobs across the street and the jobs beside it, but not behind it. So the best one I like to do is, we know we need a lot of work on the old town hall. Probably need, I'm gonna estimate $650,000 to revamp that building. And that's what I'm asking. Well, you got jobs in front of you with the gas station across the road, probably 6 jobs there. There's no jobs in the fire hall, they're all volunteer, maybe 2 or 3 full-time jobs. But there's no other full-time jobs on that block. So all you would get is 5 times 1250 on that grant. Well, that wouldn't be enough to open the doors of the old building. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just what you think, it's a calculated issue. So I just want to get that explained to you.
So in other words, the way it was explained, good call on a town hall. So this building right here, there's a lot of repairs that need to be done on this building. We could, based on the amount of employees that work or within this building here, we could use that, and then that would be because we've got a lot of work for this building here. If we're going to stay in this building, we got a lot of work to be done. So I mean, I understand you're talking about the old town hall, but the old town hall has been just fine sitting over there for now. But we need to put that money into things that are actively being, that we really need work on. But when does it close up? When's the?
They're periodically. The next deadline is August 21st.
So by August 21st. And are we handling that, Mallory? Do we have somebody that's handling that for us? Are we handling that?
I haven't been told what to apply for.
I understand. So you need guidance from, who do you need guidance from to
It
apply
has to
for?
come from the board and the town manager, what I can and can't do, who I can apply for.
So you need guidance from the board through the town manager to you on where to seek grant money.
And there needs to be, we're talking about money that requires a match. I have to have your all's permission.
What percent was that again? 5?
Yes.
So 5%, if it's 800, I'm being very positive here. It was 850,000. We're talking about a little bit over 40,000 match, which for 850,000 is a no-brainer. I mean, we'd have to come up with 40,000 possibly, which
I can't spend your money unless you give.
No, I just want to know what guidance you need so we don't fail you. So when we come to you and say, what's the outcome on the grant, you say, well, I never did it.
Well,
You understand where
I'm
we're
not a
coming
grant
from?
writer for that matter. I don't.
Well,
you know what
you
I'm
just
saying.
need guidance to make it happen. from the board through the town manager to you. Could you,
Understand you can't do this on private property. It has to be done on city-owned, maintained property.
Right.
That whole grant.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it's not-
Okay, could you, based on what we're getting ready to, what we're really, right now on the board is kind of looking at the 3 different types of Main Street. That's what we were given, to look at the 3 different types. Could you kind of go back on, I'm not in total detail, but give us an idea of where we really, I mean, because we're looking at cost effectiveness, and we're also looking at, one of the versions of the 3 required a, 40-hour-a-week employee?
Yes.
Okay. Could you kind of hit on those a little bit for us again?
So, right now, the town structure is city-owned. In other words, it's a city program. You fund it, we staff it, we solicit people who we want on the board. It's always been kind of open, anybody wants to come to the meeting comes. The second one is a quasi-town board, where you have, the town has the employee and staffs it, and then you have a board that is independent of the town with a nonprofit. That's kind of what they wanted to do nonprofit-wise. The third one is completely nonprofit, separated from the town. We don't furnish anything except we may donate money to them every year. We don't furnish the person, they have to hire their own person, do all that themselves. And they've told us where they know where all the money is, so I don't see where that's a problem.
So you've been involved with Main Street for a while, since you've pretty much been here. You were,
Before I was involved.
well, you've been a liaison or a big part of Main Street since you've been here. Based on what you're telling, or based on the 3 different methods of Main Street, in your opinion, what is the best way to go?
Whereas if the town is gonna have to back it, needs to be town-owned and controlled. And either you get a volunteer board or you appoint a board.
So city-owned, the first one you mentioned.
The other thing is, all 3 work, as Charles and I have talked about. They all work to a certain degree. That's the one that I know about most, and that's the one I know is more comfortable. You get a quasi deal, then you're gonna have a board group that's gonna push everything off on one employee. And that's a pretty tough sell to me.
But with the city-owned, there is no chance of getting any type of grant money
Oh,
for.
yeah.
Pardon?
We can go after all the grant money you want, but we can't go after, we can't solicit private donation.
I got you. Okay. So that's the city-owned version.
City-owned version.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you honestly, you have anything else? I'm sorry.
No, I just, Scott had.
Oh, I was just gonna get you to refresh the board's memory or tell them if they haven't heard. Like you did it for years, but it was just volunteer.
Yes, that's.
And if we do that, we're gonna have to hire somebody to run that.
So.
And it will come out of the general fund.
So.
I'm sorry, what's the requirement for the city-owned as far as employee?
It will have to be at least a full-time employee, but here's the key. The graciousness of NC Main Street know that most small towns have a budget issue. What they've allowed us to do is use a prorated portion of my salary and a prorated portion of Stephen's salary. Not that we got a bonus to help them, because we didn't. Whether we did Main Street or not, we got paid the same. But we used a portion of that to satisfy their requirement of having a full-time, and at one time it was part-time when I started because we were under 4,000. Now we're under 5,000, it has to be a full-time person. So same way with our telephone. The town pays the telephone bill, but I've always submitted a monthly use of phone, just a prorate. It was kind of a shot in the dark based on other numbers that we know, as part of our budget. The same way with computers and electricity. We use that to prorate into a budget for us.
Okay, so on the city-owned, we can no longer have 2 people doing it part-time to make it a full-time?
Can I explain this to you?
Sure, please, please.
Okay, so, if Based on your population, you're going to need a 40-hour person. It can remain the way it is now with splitting it between 2 town employees, 20 hours apiece, just so that it looks right on paper. That's how we've been doing it in the past with a town-operated program. If you go to quasi, you're gonna have a nonprofit arm to the person in the director's position. So it's gonna be a town employee that also serves as the president, if you will, of the nonprofit. So the town would have control over hiring, firing that person, and they would be able to, hopefully you would have like a decently working board that would not push all of the work off onto one single person and would, you know, take initiative. Because as someone said before, it really is a grassroots effort. It takes the whole community to get behind it to really be successful. But so anyway, you would have both. So you have the nonprofit, which would allow you to accept donations and charitable donations and things like that for, you know, sponsorships for events, anything like that, and it would be tax deductible to those donating, which makes it a little more enticing.
That's quasi.
Yes, that's quasi and nonprofit, either one. The nonprofit then, you would sign a memorandum of agreement with that nonprofit as the city representatives. You would be putting the administration of the Main Street program onto that nonprofit. That nonprofit would then have to hire a 40-hour-a-week person to be their executive president, or whatever you wanted to call it, to manage that board and that program and that nonprofit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the board?
No, I have worked with the board since I've been elected, and it worked the way that we had it. To me, in my opinion, it worked fine for the town. Just need to be able to get citizens to participate. I think the board that we had got burned out. They did a lot, but if we could find people that are motivated, and I think if the town will appoint the board, not wait for people to volunteer to fill out an application, just seek people that we know in the community and appoint them that way. I didn't see any problem with the way that it was run, because we had to go through different steps.
And one thing I want to point out too, they don't have to live in town. They can live outside of town. They can live in ETA. You know, for that matter, if they care about anything, they can live in Green, as long as they show up. The other thing I want to point out on any of the nonprofit articles and corporations I've seen, they always include you must have at least, or you should have at least one business owner, but not 100, or not, it says at least one, that's it. So you don't need 15 business owners running the same program, because it's not always conducive to good blood. It's not much different than a chamber, actually, if that would be the case.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and one of the main reasons is, yeah, we do want the structure, but the reason there's such a impetus to get this worked out is because it's really a budget question for us at this point. Because you know, that's gonna definitely affect the budget some more than others. So that's why we're really talking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
And they will give us more leeway, but it is a budget issue for us.
Exactly. Go ahead, Commissioner Gall.
What was I ask? If the town does the appointing of a Main Street board, then would it be of value to do the application process like we do for other boards, like planning board and library board, et cetera?
Yes, probably, and I do one too, or I have done one for the board. They have to fill out an application, we have to check them out a little bit.
I would recommend that if we follow that format, that when we set up a board for this, since it's going to be basically town-owned, that we go through the application process. Even if we solicit someone, we say, well, we know that, say for example, Doris Connors, you know, if we know she would be interested, encourage her to complete an application.
And one last slide I want to show you all if you have any more questions. Tony, will you show the last slide?
Which one is
Let's see. There should be a fourth one on there, fifth. Downtown Ayden. How about the last one? I think that's it.
that's the map?
I don't have try that one too.
This?
No, that's not mine. Well, those are the only four you have because I had a fifth. And it was actually it wasn't a PDF, it was
Can you just share with us what was
I
on
can
it?
say, yeah, basically, I went through your little map of downtown Main Street. I calculated the tax money that you make off all the businesses, all the buildings.
Talking about property tax?
Property. It came out to a little bit over $43,000 a year. Less than 2% of the $6 million annual operating budget that you all propose as a town, and less than 1% of revenue to the town. So just kind of give you an idea of, like, where it is downtown Main Street.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. Quick look, Ayden downtown building contributes around $42,000 to the budget, and they add more tax every year. Equates to about 2% of our tax. We collect yearly on ad valorem taxes, or less than 1% of the general fund's operating budget. Can you raise it up a little? That didn't include 12 single-family residents, which are part of Main Street. Couple things. If we were to go for applications, whether they're nonprofit or private, it has to go through the town anyway. So they requested $13,000 for grant money and $42,000 for match. That's a non-starter because we have to be the applicant for federal or state grants. They can't do it because the government wants someone that's going to be held accountable for spending that money. Now, we can let them spend it, but it still kind of has to transact through us, and we have to be the applicant.
Mallory, when you were running it, I know that line item, it included donation to the College Festival, donation to the Barbecue Festival, radio advertising. How much did you actually spend running Main Street?
In the 2025.
Not counting the facade grants, because they're gone.
In between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. And sometimes I had to go into my own personal travel and expense education budget in the economic development end to pay for some travel and expense.
And Marcia, could you tell us if there's been anything in the budget so far to go to Main Street? There's nothing allocated right now.
We're just waiting on direction from the
Yeah.
board.
What's the deficit in the general fund right now? Before adding Main Street?
Before adding Main Street right now,
The
tonight.
amount we have to borrow from the general fund savings.
Okay, hang on 1 second. It's what's in the report? Sorry.
And I will send you all my budget and everything tomorrow.
172,000 we need to plug to general fund.
Was it 182 at first, though?
It was.
Yeah, I
Well,
remember 182. So now it's 172.
yes, sir. We got insurance quotes in, which decreased it, but then the state released.
That's always good.
That's always good, but the state released the retirement with mandated rates, which kind of increased the general fund. So it's a lot of stuff coming in.
Any other questions for Mallory? Thank you, Mallory. We appreciate it, sir, and we appreciate it.
You think we make
You have anything else for us?
Not necessarily, not unless I can answer any other questions for you all.
Could you spell your last name?
Yes, sure. HALSALL.
H-A-L.
SALL.
Now pronounce that wholesale, is that right?
It's close enough.
I worked on that for at least a month when we first met up a couple years ago.
Gentlemen, we do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And he will be open to any questions. You send them to me, email them, and I'll send them to him.
Yep.
He'll answer them directly to you.
Okay, thanks, Jamal. Appreciate it. Okay, next we got Mr. Vandermoss. Rick, he's got a little bit more information on the pilot program that was discussed last month. So we're going to hear from him tonight. What is this? There's no topic on it.
Yeah, it's just a space on
Oh, that doesn't. Okay. I thought I had a question. I did request. Okay.
We can give them.
Okay. Welcome, sir. We do appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Rick Vandermoss. I'm the rates manager with Electricities. And I just wanted to come back for a council meeting. This process started last year, last quarter of last calendar year. Mr. Howard and Ms. Hall, they started inquiring about how to help, customers with their electric bills and that sort of. And because you have an AMI system in place, it's something where you can move to more advanced rate structures where customers can take more of an active part in their electric usage, where they're not just paying a flat fee for every hour, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but they can take an active part and manage when they use their energy to control their electric bill. And a time of use rate gives your customers that ability. So what happened last year, we brought in Utility Financial Solutions, who did the cost of service study for Ayden a few years ago, and we provided them with AMI data, budget data, customer information, and they did the analysis, and this is the results of that analysis. So what we'll be discussing is go over again the coincident peaks, the seasons and the months, the resulting time of use periods, residential rate path, the small general service rate phase-in rate path, residential high and low impacts, small general service low impacts. So next. So what was, at the wholesale level, what was given to Utility Financial Solutions was the wholesale peaks that Ayden gets billed on of when those peaks occurred in every month for what hour they occurred in. And UFS did a statistical analysis to find out what was the highest probability hours that those peaks would occur in. Now, it's a little difficult. You can see in months, the shoulder months, which are March and April and October and November, it's a little more difficult to find those. And those months were assigned into the winter, and May was assigned into summer. So as you can see from here, what was reflected in there is at the top there, all those different costs that go into making your time of use and doing those hours. It's very important that you get those hours, that those signal the customers on when to not do laundry, not cook, maybe turn your air conditioner up a little bit. Do some small things that can make big impacts on your bill when you're doing them on a daily basis. So next we'll go on to the actual hours. So summer, it was determined that the peak would occur between hour beginning 1 p.m. and hour ending 7 p.m. All other hours would be off-peak, not including weekends. So this is a 7-day-a-week type operation. Summer in the winter, October through April, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. That is the most likely time that you're going to experience the peak in the winter, all other hours being off-peak. Now, through working with UFS and the town, we had a discussion, we examined what other towns were doing and those sorts of things, and decided it would be best if we didn't burden customers with having to worry about time of day on federal holidays. Federal holidays, you're looking at most of these federal holidays, you would see warehousers shutting down or scaling back operations. You know, it would be excuse me, a purely weather-driven peak, either an extreme cold or something along those lines, or extreme heat wave or something that would end up having to, where you'd have a peak land on these days. So there was a very good low probability that a peak would occur on a federal holiday. Now, weekends were examined also. There is a 13% chance that a peak would align on a weekend day. Every year, I examined every year going back to 2018. Every year has had a peak occur on a weekend, at least one time. So that was the reason. It was, you know, back and forth about what did you want to take the chance? Was it worth the probability? And what happened was we just decided, let's keep it at the federal holiday level, so that when people were on, you know, off work, or if, you know, when they get days off on along those federal holidays, where you're baking your turkey on Thanksgiving or whatever you're cooking on Christmas, New Year's, Juneteenth, you know, President's Day, those days, 4th of July barbecues, or, you know, what you're doing, you don't have to worry about time of use. It's all off peak. Next slide. So what we're proposing is a pilot. A time of use, when a town goes to a new time of use rate, it is a process. There is a process on getting the meters set up. There is a process for the billing staff on changing the customer in the billing system. And then there's a process of ensuring that the bill is correct when they move on to the time of use rate and that first bill goes out. So a pilot, it gives town staff an opportunity to practice in doing the process, identifying the customer, the meter, getting the rates set up in the CIS system, and getting the customer changed over, and then verifying that they've got an accurate bill. And that is another part where we will assist. We will create a calculator for town staff where they would only have to put in the on-peak and off-peak energy, and it would generate a spreadsheet where that would generate the bill, which would be accurate to 1 or 2 cents in verifying the bills before they go out. So phase 2 was chosen because the way the rates, UFS did the rates, is it was assumed that the town would adopt the rate and then beginning transitioning customers to time of use, the whole town. So that in itself isn't a bad idea, but it takes a lot of commitment. Pilot seemed like a better opportunity for the town to understand time of use, staff to practice, and the customers, the few that would go on the rate, would be able to give feedback on what works and what doesn't work. But there had to be enough of a financial incentive in both rates to send a price signal to a customer on, is this working? Giving them enough practice, giving the town practice so that the bill reflects how they're using energy. Phase 2 was the best way to adopt that in a pilot program. Next slide, please. Same thing with with your small general service customers. We would encourage you to go out and recruit customers that have to be able to do this. High load factor customers are natural winners on time of use rates. But there are customers that they can benefit learning and helping the town, helping themselves save money. One of the things I did want to note is the town did adopt the power cost adjustment, 0.0601, 603, or something like that. I don't remember the number exactly. That is not included in these rates. That would still be a separate power cost adjustment charge to recover Rider 1 charges from the wholesale bill. That would transition from one bill that they're currently on to a time of use bill that they would be receiving in the future. Next slide. Every rate has winners, natural winners and losers. These are just examples of if somebody went on the rate and did not change their behavior at all. These were the more extreme examples of winners and losers, largest increases, largest savings by percentage, and both for residential and small general service. So there is no perfect rate structure, but time of use gives the customer more leverage in controlling their electric bill. And then that is. One of the things I do want to say is this is an adoption, a new rate being adopted to your tariff. So one of the things you would need to do is a public hearing, according to North Carolina general statutes, to put this in your tariff. Now, this is a revenue neutral rate. It doesn't in overall change the town's electric revenues if, appreciably. So it is a revenue neutral type of approach. So when you do this, it would be a zero rate increase if you were just doing this as a change in your rates at the public hearing, adopting this as a pilot rate. And the tariff that you received previously is written, you'll notice in the availability section, it says that the rate is optional. It's not it's not the standard rate.
Is that all you have, sir?
I said public hearing. Yeah. Yes, I think that's it.
Okay, any questions from the board? Yeah, Commissioner Gahn.
Yes, ma'am.
In the pilot program, those that would participate, would you recommend an energy audit for those participants so that they can have a more accurate type of reading on their, as far as on and off? Would that be a recommendation?
Well, an energy audit wouldn't necessarily tell them how much they're using on and off peak. It's more of an efficiency thing, like the customer you were talking about earlier, that their emergency heat was running and they didn't know it. That's an energy audit identifies those sorts of things. The only thing you could do, the town staff could do, and we could work with the AMI vendor NextGrid, is start moving meters to a time of use scenario to where the data would flow from NextGrid into the town, so that when somebody lives at 123 Main Street, when they get their bill, they would get, okay, you used 1,000 kilowatt hours and you used 850 kilowatt hours off peak and you used 150 kilowatt hours on peak. I think that's something that, as a long-term, as part of this pilot effort, that would be one thing that town staff and electricities would work with NextGrid to start delivering that data. Because in the end, if you deliver that data, it cuts out a step for moving folks to time of use. And it's also information to the customers that they can look. It's very straightforward math to do. You just need to know what month you're in, what the on-peak is, what the off-peak is. Very simple math to figure out, well, okay, the town billed me this much. This is what I would be on time of use. And when you get those numbers in there, it says, hey, if I shift doing laundry here, or if I do, if I cook dinner, or, turn the air conditioning up a little bit just for these times, you can really affect your your electric bill and bring it down by shifting that usage to off-peak hours.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner
But
Conley?
this is just for presentation, right?
Right, right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Vandermark, we appreciate it, and I have one question.
Yes, sir.
So when we look at time of use and we look at the pilot program, would you be willing to say there's two benefactors on that, the town and the citizen, or
Yes.
one benefactor?
Oh, no. The town benefits long range, long term in the electric industry. The electric industry is going to two different rate structures. It's going to time of use, and it's going to mandatory demand. Residential demand, small general service demand, because the ball keeps rolling. Electric vehicles, solar, just the energy efficiency, all the different things that are coming through the grid are making things, and they're coming to small towns in North Carolina and Nebraska and Iowa, everywhere, that these effects on the grid are coming. And what's also coming is customers' ability, they want the ability to control their electric bills. And so long term, the idea is to give the customers that ability to look at a rate and figure out how that rate makes them, how they can save money on their electric bill. I saw a headline today, 31% of people in the United States are having trouble paying their electric bills. Now, it's in states like New York and California and Hawaii where, electric rates go 45 and 50 and 65 cents a kilowatt hour, where you're paying 13 or 14 here in North Carolina.
Could you go back to the slide
Sure.
real fast that has the time of use, or has the peak times?
That's like the third slide.
Okay,
Yeah, right there.
Okay, so here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand everything you just said here. So summertime, on peak is from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So the objective here is if you're on time of use, is not to use, not washing clothes, not doing major things between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. in the summertime, correct?
Every day of the week from May to September.
Okay, so
You would try to throttle back your electricity use as much.
So
Okay?
now, we all know that the peak times are based on demand. We know that. There's a lot of demand on the grid.
Right.
So what happens if everybody adheres to that policy on peak and says, I'm not going to do anything until 7 p.m.? Everybody does it at 7 p.m. How does it affect the grid?
It hits the grid,
And it hits it hard, correct?
but it's after the peak. It's when power at the wholesale lever has dropped down and you're not
Why does it
running
drop
those
down? Why does it drop down?
because the load has dropped.
Because everybody's using time of use, correct?
Well, not everybody is using time of
Well,
use.
let's say-
Maybe in the future. There are discussions in the rate community in 10 or 15 years. What do you do about shifted, and that's called a shifted peak. Orlando has that because of Disney World and Universal. All of a sudden the sun goes down and all the lights come on. And they get another peak after dark. They get a 3-peak day in the summertime or in the wintertime. They'll get a morning peak, they'll get an afternoon peak, and then they get a lighting peak. So shifted peaks are a thing, but they're not anywhere near they're not as vicious as, because the demand isn't needed. You don't need as much air conditioning at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night that you did when the sun was blazing down on you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and everything like that. If yes, you got to cool your house down. Your house is maintained a certain level, but that shifted peak is nowhere near as vicious or as big as that afternoon peak that you're controlling for due to atmospherics with your.
I was just looking at the, I
Yeah.
was just looking because, if people were very energy conscious and they could do that, and then you have all this use at 7 p.m. because everyone waited to keep, kilowatt usage down during that peak time. Okay, well,
Yeah.
you explain, and of course, it would take time to get there. In the little town of Ayden, with the amount of people we have, we wouldn't put a demand, on the whole grid.
But your point is completely valid, and it's something that's being looked at in the future is what happens in a shifted, because they have that in California, and they have that in Texas. They have shifted peaks because they're more time of use oriented. They have more solar because they have a shifted peak because the solar drops off when the sun, because half the day is night, and the sun drops out. They get a peak of units that they have to ramp up to catch that peak from the solar farms backing out when as the sun goes down. Right. So they're chasing a bigger dragon in the West than we do here in North Carolina.
Okay. Well, Mr. Van Mars, we do appreciate you coming out and going over again with us, okay?
More than happy to help.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we're going to have is our consent agenda. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to take a look at the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on accepting the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, it passes. Next thing we're going to talk about is financial health and rate considerations of the Town of Ayden water sewer system. Ms. Hall?
Yes, we have a speaker, great, yes. She came in March and presented, and we wanted her to come back. She has some more data for you to share and great, answer some questions. So great luck.
Thanks. Good evening. All right, you have me loaded.
State your name and everything?
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I will. My name is Alicia Eastope Fraser. I am a senior project director at the UNC School of Government and Environmental Finance Center. Yes, you're welcome. And so I've got a pretty big deck, and I think you guys have everything, most of which we've already gone through, and I think everyone was there in March when I came. And so I'll go ahead and just we can either just skip through a whole chunk of things, or if you want, do you want like a one sentence per slide?
Well, we've seen it before, so just kind of key in on the key points.
All right, great. We'll just go ahead and fly through it here.
Is the board happy? Is the fine with that?
Is that good? Okay, great. All right, so financial benchmarks, went through this. You turn and I'll talk. So those are our targets that we have. Those are the different parameters we use. We put them up here one by one. Go ahead. Yeah, you can. All right, sounds good. I'll do that. All right, so operating ratio, you guys are doing okay. With most of these, you're going to see you had a dip in 2022, but I've really kind of made some comeback. And I'll kind of talk through kind of what's next. Again, looking pretty strong here in debt service coverage ratio. Same with your quick ratio. I've talked about this more at length in March, so happy to go through it if you've got questions. Days cash on hand, you guys are above the target, so kind of solid here. And your percent of capital assets depreciated is the one that's below target. This is not unusual for the entire state. We see this all the time in infrastructure, that it's hard to kind of keep up with your infrastructure. The infrastructure gets old fast. So you guys are making progress, but that's kind of the one to keep an eye on. So, okay. So a little bit of background about rates. You can go ahead. No, it's all good. We're going to breeze through this. Okay, so some of the objectives that I like to talk about, but you guys have seen this before. Just trying to keep them simple, make sure that they're understandable by everybody, including you and your customers. Keep them based on expenses. Covering your full costs is the number one key thing for you guys to think about. And then consider being fair, affordable, and equitable. Trying to do them, we don't want them to be super complicated, frozen in time, or based on political desires, or based on neighbors. What other people are doing is not necessarily what makes sense for you because you're a unique system. I'll skip some of these so you can keep going. Just thinking about your priorities, what you guys want to do as a utility, and try to go through this process with some frequency, preferably every year as you're looking at your expenses. And these are a couple of the different things that we think about with objectives of what you're trying to meet for your utility needs. Full cost recovery is there at the center. That's really the goal. Just being able to cover your O&M, your capital needs, and your debt service. And then you guys would have to kind of think about if encouraging conservation is a goal, if maintaining affordability was a goal, or if fostering business-friendly practices was a goal, or building reserves. So these are all different kind of things that you consider as you're developing your rate structure or updating it. You can go ahead. We do maintain a dashboard for the state. It was updated recently in February, I believe, for this current fiscal year. So if that's something of interest, you're welcome to take a look. It pulls up data for all of the utilities across the state and shows where you compare. You can take a look at water versus sewer or combined. Then you can toggle the number of gallons that you're looking at, and then you can have comparison groups, whether that's all utilities across the state, and there's a whole number of them same size or same council of government, that sort of thing. And the dials on the right show you, how your bill compares to others, conservation, signal, your cost recovery, and affordability. So it's a way that you can kind of compare to others, though, like I said, we try to suggest you don't exclusively compare to your neighbors because your system's unique. So there's lots of reasons why your revenue might change with rates. We're going to blow through these. So as your rates go up, people use less, so there's that accountability. Your population changes. You might have shifts for folks coming in or going out. Sometimes you have a loss of a big customer, maybe a big account that's got a kind of a big bill. They might be heading out or coming in. Economic conditions, I think we're all pretty familiar with some of those. The changes in collection rates, just even if you have the same number of customers, maybe somebody's not able to pay, so you reduce because of that. Weather and climate can affect water usage and how much people are using, or how much additional water is entering your wastewater system and being treated. Any sort of restrictions, this is less common, but restrictions can impact that. And then technology, we think about as people put in improved technology, we see the amount of water needed going down. All right, here's where we'll get to the bread and butter. So I took a little bit of feedback from the last time I presented. I went back into the data and did a little bit of cleaning and updating. So some of these numbers might look a little bit different because I did do some adjustments there. I also just wanted to respond. I know there was a public comment, and I just wanted to chime in here. I did do some math real quick while I was sitting here. In case this was of interest, in that water only, there was a question about how many customers are water only customers. The math is 423 folks are water only. The majority of those folks are out of town users. That's 355. And I'm happy to relay these numbers to you separately written if that's helpful, if you're a visual learner. And then of those 423 water only, 62 of them are in town. So the majority of those water only are out of town. And then your sewer only, you've got 31 folks that are sewer only, 26 are water availability, and 4 are in town. 1 is a multi-unit. So just wanted to clarify that from the public comments, and happy to provide that written. And then the other thing kind of coming in from the public comments in terms of publishing your maps and stuff, that's obviously up to you guys. Just wanted to highlight, and this is on another slide here, I'll go through that, but generally it's very common that we have inside and outside rates, and one of the reasons why we typically see higher outside rates is because they're not paying in tax income. And so that's one of the ways that you can account for some of those kind of difference in accountability. Okay, so sorry, actually go back. I was trying to address those from public comment. I've got 2 years of data, 22 months of data, and just highlighting you guys do track residential and commercial, but you don't charge by it. So when you see water in town and water in town commercial, those at the moment have the exact same rate. I've just split it up since you have that data, and that's one way that you can change your rate structure. All right, next slide. Just a little bit of background highlight. You guys did have a 4.5% increase in both your base and volumetric for both water and sewer from fiscal year 24 to 25. Your current blocks, if you're not familiar with them, are 0 to 5,000 gallons, 5 to 15 gallons, and 15 gallons over. You do have a sprinkler charge, which has no base charge, just a volumetric, and it's the same rate as your water. You do have a user availability fee, which is a flat charge for folks that have access to the system but are not tapping in. And then there's a couple of multi-unit user charges. Those would be like apartment buildings or complexes that have a kind of a different rate. Next slide. This is for your own reference as we compare against other scenarios that I've put together for you. This is your current fiscal year 2025 rates. I do have 2 lines there. It looks a little bit funny for you. You've got 0 to 2K and 2K to 5K. Right now, you guys are billing the same for that rate. But based on some feedback, it sounds like there's interest in providing an allowance. And so I've given that line so that you can see as you compare, that will become 0 if you give an allowance from that 0 to 2,000. So that's just, if you're wondering why that's duplicated. Next slide. So I went through this on when I was here last. I typically like to put together consumption histograms. So when you look at this, what you're seeing is for each bar, that's the frequency of bills in that bucket of consumption. So, 0 to 1,000, you've got about 10,000 bills in the period of data that I have that are hitting of folks that are using between 0 and 1,000. So it just shows kind of your typical consumption levels. So I've split it up by residential and commercial. You can see there's kind of a bigger peak of the lower end for residential, which is what we expect to see. And then you've got kind of a more drastic commercial, but then you've got kind of this blip at the end, which is folks that are using more water. Also very typical. I did put in red your current blocks. One suggestion, thanks. You can go ahead. One suggestion is shifting the blocks. So we have talked about doing an allowance of 0 to 2,000 gallons, which would be included in your base rate. And then shifting your blocks based on consumption to 5,000 and 10,000 for your residential, and then anything over 10,000. And then on the commercial side, you'd have a block from 2,000 to 12,000, 12,000 to 20, and then anything over 20. So there's no magic. I think there was the comment about electrical utilities. There's no perfect rate structure. It's really up to you to kind of decide what you want to do, but that could be an option to try to, so the most common thing would be to try to charge higher rates at that higher consumption on the commercial side would be kind of the bigger change. Next slide. So the rates analysis that we did had 22 months of data. I think I put 24 in there somewhere else, so I apologize. It's 22 months of data, July of 22 to May of 24. In this iteration, I did go ahead and remove all the outliers to try to remove any skewed data, which was less than 2% of the entries. The assumptions that we make in our model are 2% uncollected bills per year, so that's folks just not paying their bill. And then we also build in a negative 1% average consumption per year, so that's that kind of technology piece or that awareness piece of people using less. And then a 3% reduction, 10% increase in rates, so that's customers being aware of the increased charge that they're having and reducing their consumption because of that increase in charge. I have built in a small amount of your expected connection fees, which you guys do have modeled in your budget and audits, but I try to not build in too much because I don't want you to rely on them. Those are one-time fees and you can't kind of expect that they're going to come in. I've thrown up the customer class growth rate here. This is where it's 22 months of data, and I've just done a month over month average average change in the number of customers, and you see you've got a little bit of growth of water in town, and you do have some that are kind of negative growth also. Conservatively, we can put them all at 0 just so you're not assuming that you're going to have growth, but I do use those modeled numbers. Next slide. All right, so your expenses, this is one of the things that I wanted to highlight. we build in 4% annual increase because of inflation. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty between tariffs and just general economic uncertainty in terms of budget and expenses. Although I do know that your contract treatment, so both for the water and for the wastewater, I know you guys are anticipating kind of bigger increases for those. So just trying to be aware of the fact that this number is going to go up. You already know that it's going to go up, and so kind of thinking about that as you're preparing for potential rate increases. I have thrown a debt here, which obviously I'm not going to read through any of this. You have this. What I've just done is I've taken all of your debt related to water and sewer and put it in here, and you can see you're at about $600,000 a year right now. It will slowly decrease, but just keeping an eye on the fact that you've got 2 USDA loans that the maturity isn't until 2059 or 2048. The 2048 maturity one has quite a bit of annual payment. You're at about 160 or so thousand per year. So I'm just keeping aware of that as you move through your years here. All right, so I've put in 2 rate scenarios here today. We had 1 through 6 before, so this is why this is version 7. What I have done is I've tried to take some feedback and tailor it more to your interests. So we've got, we're keeping the split between residential and commercial. In this scenario, I have proposed the new block structure, which I had recommended. And the 4% increase across the board, both base and volumetric after the first year. So the first year I've built in a manual shift to try to get you to covering your expenses, and then done a 4% increase to match the 4% increase in expenses that you might expect. And so I've just put in these numbers here. I'm not going to read through all of them, but you can see that without any sort of increase, if you were to maintain your rates as is right now, you're already going to start getting into that negative zone in terms of matching your expenses to your revenues. So if you don't make any changes this year, you can expect kind of an $85,000 loss or a dip into your reserves or savings to cover that balance, versus if you did an increase and that shift in commercial versus residential and the shift in blocks, you can expect more like a $90,000 surplus over your expenses to start putting towards your projects that you need to be taking care of in your system. It's just showing here this is your fund balance. So your fund balance is sitting at around that $1.5 million. And if you were to stay with the existing rates, that's that yellow line, just showing if you were to not change anything, that you'd be seeing kind of hitting 0 in about 5 years, versus if you use some new rates with the 4% built in year over year, you'd be starting to increase the balance in your reserves. This is just that covering your expenses with your revenues. Again, that 100% full cost recovery is the goal there, that target dotted line. Without changing your rates, you'd be looking at below that coverage in the yellow, versus in that solid navy, you'd be just above coverage, which we want to see. All right, so this is to help you understand this is the actual rates that I had proposed with using some math, but this is not a fixed thing. This is really up to you in terms of what that would look like. But these are the numbers that get you to that 90,000 surplus. So it's just showing you what the base rates are. Then you have that allowance, that's 0 to 2K, and then what the rates per 1,000 gallons are for each of those different blocks. And this is just the residential and commercial. I did not put in the availability charge and the multi-unit, though both of those would need small increases as well. So that was version 7. Version 8, the main difference between 7 and 8 is the block structure. And so actually, I'm sorry, version 8 does not change the block structure. So it still splits the residential and commercial, but that's, I've got an error there in the slide. It does not change the block structure. So it keeps the 5 and the 15 breaks. Still includes that 4% increase year over year. Pretty similar numbers, a little bit higher revenue with new rates, using those blocks, just because you're capturing, if you increase those rates, you've got bigger blocks currently, and so you're going to be increasing your revenue from those blocks as it is. And then I've got the same charts showing you just those, that that we need to make sure that you're continuing to adjust your rates to account for expense increases. So that's that one, and same kind of covering your costs. This shows you actually the rates are the same, it's just where the blocks shift. So that's the biggest difference between version 7 and version 8. Oh, I've got a few typos in here. This one just shows you the comparison of an average bill. So I've got version 7 and version 8. Again, the biggest difference is the blocks, if they're new blocks or not, or the current blocks. And then it just shows if you've got like a residential inside user who's like a relatively low user at 1,000 gallons a month, what is their charge going to be for their current fiscal year 25 charge versus version 7 or version 8. And it's got a couple of different scenarios: average user, commercial low, commercial average, and commercial high. So it just shows the biggest, the differences. The biggest ones are the ones that are using more, because in order to capture that same revenue, you have to charge a little bit more at those higher groups. So that higher commercial inside user at 16,000 is going to have a higher bill with the two proposed scenarios, with the idea that the lower users are going to not be carrying as much of the weight. All right, and I'm not actually going to go through any of these at all. So I'll pause there. Are there any questions about either of those two, or anything else you need from me to move forward with anything?
Anything for the board?
All right.
We do appreciate you
Of
coming
course.
up.
Happy to help.
And thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, next, Mr. Howard, we got review, and I don't know if we're gonna reach the approved GFL syndication contract, because we have 2 members missing from the board tonight. So, but we do want to go ahead, and you want to go ahead, is there any, we have GFL here, correct?
GFL should be here. Yeah, and one thing, was the board prepared to take action on the water and sewer rates?
No, I'm not. No, the rates I saw and versus, I want to look at the previous, and because they look very good.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Page around 126 is where.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I shouldn't put it like that. Does the board want to review the new rate structure on the water and then review it and come back on the water?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion on that?
Make a motion to table it.
Okay, because it was an action item.
Yes.
So, do I have a motion to table that? The water and sewer, the sewer, the water and sewer.
Okay, motion.
Okay, Commissioner Connor has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all opposed? Okay, so review approved the GFL sanitation contract. Mr. Manager.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to really stress this and read some of the advantages of this program, because this is really one of the things that can address that general fund balance. We've been having to get money out of the general fund balance for years, I think before I got here. I don't know how long, Marcia. But there's a big concern that keeps us on the watch list. We can't borrow money. But let me read really quickly some advantages and just facts on if we contract out the garbage versus if we keep it in-house. If we keep it in-house, we're going to have to purchase new garbage trucks. We may not can get the loan. The LGC would have to approve that. They're several months behind. I'm afraid they would say no with our debt ratio. I'm afraid they would say no, sub it out. Let's see, if we purchase or leased a new truck or trucks, the minimum it would be that it would increase the customer's part would be $25 a month. Contracting out is the only reasonably way to noticeably improve our general fund balance, other than a large tax increase. We paid other contractors over $22,000 this current year because our trucks had been broken and we had to sub it out. The amount based on the condition of the trucks, I would say it would easily double in repair, in having to contract it out next year. Between workers' compensation, injuries, and turnover, it's difficult to keep the sanitation department manned. Often, street department personnel now has to work in sanitation, prohibiting them from doing their jobs in streets. The money saved from contracting out can be used to fund those employees that will move from sanitation into streets. It can be used to repair or ultimately replace the street sweeper. It can be used to purchase the dump truck that I believe was on the original capital asset list, the one that has the side planks. It can help allocate true cost better. Right now, as y'all know, the treasurer's office don't like the amount of money that we get from the electric fund to support the other departments, and we could use this money that we will save by subbing it out to more accurately allocate. For example, the postage and the printing the bills. Like the postage, the electricity department pays 100%, and that's not really right. Sanitation should pay part, water should pay part, sewer should pay part. Let's see, what else? This in turn, if we could do that, more of that, eventually the electric department fund would be high enough to when we encounter these wholesale price increases, eventually we would be able to absorb that without having to pass it on to the customer if we allow the electric department to build back up their fund. It would cost us an estimated $760,900 loss if we kept it in-house. This is including what we call an opportunity loss of $45,000, and that comes from the mowing contract, which right now is $90,000. We got rid of the sanitation department and moved them into streets. The assistant manager tells me that their job would be to mow. So we would have a neater look in town, and we cut that mowing contract in half. Let's see, it would save us around $11,600 in fuel if we sub it out. We would save an estimated $41,000 and change in maintenance and repair costs if we sub it out. I estimate that even if we did all these things, like paid for the salaries of the sanitation department to move to the street department, if we started allocating the cost and taking it out of the sanitation department, its share instead of the electric, even after we did all those things, I estimate we could still put almost $136,000 in the general fund balance, which would actually move the needle and get the percentage closer to what the state treasurer's office requires of us. Let's see, and the last thing I'll mention is the attorney's concerns from the last meeting and any other concerns. GFL has tweaked the contracts, and y'all have a copy of that, and the attorney, I believe, wrote y'all this afternoon and said he's totally fine with it. So I would encourage us to really think about approving that because I believe it's a much better option than raising taxes. And that's all I got.
Okay, any comments from the board?
The only comment I might have is because of what our town manager just stated, and also along with what we have been presented as far as the contract, I would like to see us move ahead with this, but again, you know, we do have 2 board members missing tonight, but you know, personally, I would strongly recommend, but that's just me.
Mr. Davis?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Connor?
I'm fine.
I have pros and cons. It looks good, and then I have some reservations about some things. I would like to think about it a little bit more.
We have a representative from GFL here, correct? Could you come up, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. I had the opportunity to watch your trucks in action and everything out on the route, you know. And I have just a couple questions. And I discussed with our town manager earlier today that the last meeting, I requested a public hearing for outsourcing our sanitation department to another company or to a company. And the reason I wanted the public hearing is I wanted to get input from the citizens of the town of Ayden, because they're the ones that we serve and the sanitation department serves. But we didn't make that happen. So we do want to have a public hearing to give the citizens an opportunity to come in and talk about that just briefly. So, I think the commissioners, one of the commissioners mentioned that we don't have the mayor here, nor one of our other commissioners. Looking at what you guys do and how you've done it, it looks like it's a really good program, and some of the things that the town, the town manager mentioned tonight on the savings. Now, the way I understand it in the contract, basically, if we go with just GFL on this, we're good to go as far as if you have truck problems, whatever, you'll make sure there's a truck on site to make sure garbage is picked up. But we have a lot of citizens in this town who have gotten spoiled. And the reason I say spoiled is because we have a sanitation department that goes above and beyond. That's the reason we've had them for as long as we've had them. And when I say that, I'm talking about, they have one container, one cart, and suddenly they had a bunch of visitors this week, and they created more garbage. They won't fit in the cart. Now, if it's not in the cart, is GFL going to pick it up?
No, the trash has to be in the cart. We're using an automated.
So I saw that. You got the driver, puts out the arm, it goes to the truck, then it picks up the truck. So any trash left next to that cart will not be picked up.
That's correct.
Okay. So, and there's no way around that at all?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
other than the citizen requesting another cart and paying for an extra cart if they have a family of 5 or 6 or whatever.
That's correct.
Yeah, because it's not going to be picked up unless it goes in the cart.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But, and like I said, I really appreciate you coming out. And I think the way it's looking right now, we just want to get a consensus from our entire board on this, on how we're going to do that. But I wanted to address that question. And I wanted the citizens to know about that as well. Because, you can ride around Ayden and you can see it on recycle day and on garbage day. It's not just in the cart. So, and again, we've gotten accustomed to being able to have our garbage picked up, whether it's in the cart or beside the cart. But moving forward with another company that has the way of picking up garbage that GFL has, it will just sit there. It will not be picked up.
Yeah. Now, part of that is some of these people should have more than one cart.
Right. Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But keep in mind,
yes, what you're saying.
more cart means more expense. So, yeah. And
Understand.
again, I started off the conversations. We've got kind of spoiled with, we're having our own sanitation department.
Yes, sir.
We've got guys that, pick it up and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to address that and make sure I understood that. But is there any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Gall.
He was talking about garbage. Now, with the recycle, a lot of times there's certain packaging that is so large it would not fit in the cart, but it's a recyclable item. So are you not going to take that if it cannot? It's just physically impossible to put it in the cart?
Yeah, now there are drop-off places for large items too. But yeah, if there's a something that's huge that will not fit in the cart, no, we
don't take it.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, another option for things like that, and we could discuss, is maybe having a can somewhere drop off for those kind of things. So there's some things we can work. I was just trying to give you guys the structure of the contract. So.
Right. So you're saying, say for instance, if the town, had a location to put a couple big dumpsters
Yeah.
or recyclables, that we could work that out and put that in the contract to have those empty as well. Now, the way I understand it, that based on our contract, that the town is still responsible for all landfill fees, and the only thing that, basically, we're responsible for the landfill. We have to pay that cost, that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, and, go ahead.
So are you saying if you have more than one cart, you have to pay extra?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on the current rate.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, sir, we do appreciate it, and I'm so sorry. Could you go ahead and give your name and everything for the record?
Yeah, Pat Luce with GFL, Government Contracts Manager.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna keep back with the old carts that we have.
Yes, we're going to operate those, and if we need new ones, that GFL will provide those. Yes,
That's
sir.
correct. And you guys all have my email if you need to
Yes, sir.
contact me or call me.
Yes, sir,
Okay?
and we appreciate you coming out tonight. We really do, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
okay?
your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so that was an action item. We're gonna, well, we're gonna have to wait on Coach Dave to see just.
Just vote to take. You like to do it, right?
Yeah.
Welcome back. We're waiting on you to make a vote on something.
Okay, I'm gonna, since review or approve the GFL sanitation contract, I think I heard from Commissioner Goff that she's making a motion that we table that to the next board meeting. And, okay, did you make, was it you, Commissioner Connor, or Commissioner Goff made that motion?
We just discussed it.
Okay, all right, so do we have a motion to table it to the next board meeting? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
And all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? So no. Okay, and next we're waiting on Ms. Hall to get back.
She said she'd be right back. I saw
Yeah.
her.
Scott, I'm gonna ask her a couple of questions, both in reference to funding and about the GFL contract. And that was not something that had to be addressed with Mr. the gentleman.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so before we get started on budget direction and guidance, Ms. Hall,
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you just a couple of things.
Okay.
And this would, because GFL was in here, and, you know, it's not really, you know, they've submitted their information for the contract, what it's going to cost us to do it, and so he's pretty much done his thing. You know, looking at our budget and looking at the sanitation department, looking at the revenue that we currently take in with the sanitation department, roughly $448,000 a year is our revenue. Then we have a $20,000 for landfill that we have to pay. Now, we are going to still incur that cost because, you know, GFL doesn't pay for landfill. The Town of Ayden still will pay for that. And we have a salary roughly $265,000, which is what we pay the sanitation department in salary and things within the salary area. So the $265,000 that we currently pay those employees, that will move over to streets. So streets is going to have an additional salary coming in, and with that $448,000 that we have in revenue, out of that revenue, we're roughly with $239,200 going to GFL for the contract, plus the $20,000 that we have to pay for our fees on that. That's roughly $259,000. So the $259,000 with the $448 revenue that we're no longer going to receive the total amount of revenue, that's about, let's see, I didn't do the math on that, 448, and then we're going to pay GFL with the landfill fees and the contract, roughly, let's just say $240,000, a little bit over $240,000. Or actually, it's going to be $259,000. I'm sorry, with the $20,000 for the landfill. So that's $259,000, and then the $265,000 in salaries. If I just add those two numbers together with a revenue of $448,000, which we lose, you know, the total revenue. We are going to get some revenue because of the amount that they're paying us in the amount we're charging the current customers, the 2,300 clients that we have, consumers. So how is that going to affect the streets as far as salary is concerned? You know, how are we going to, because there is profit there on the difference and everything, but it's not going to make up that salary difference. So
No, and some of the streets department, you know, on paper sanitation looks great, but it's a hard department to maintain with high turnover and the maintenance of the trucks. So if you do move your people over to streets is general fund, it's general funded.
Just like sanitation.
Just like sanitation, 100%. So the sustainability of what we have right now with trash is not gonna last long. I mean, you will have to replace the truck, which we do not have.
Well, I heard the same conversation about 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And the town manager mentioned that as well. And actually, it's probably been 6 years ago, where we were operating in the red on the sanitation department. And at that time, the town manager mentioned that we had not increased our rates for so many years. And so how do we get operating in the black again? We raised our rates to get operating in the black. Now, over the years here, we have raised our rates. We've been constantly raising our rates. But based on, for whatever reason, our trash trucks are not lasting that long. They just aren't. And we bought one that was too small, and then 2 years later, or whatever, we bought another one the right size. You know, so we do have two trash trucks. Now, unfortunately, during this past year, as you know, the town manager pointed out, we had both our trucks down at one time. And then we had to outsource, and that cost us $22,000, I think you said.
Yes.
So it bothers me that we have two trash trucks, and we're not really getting the longevity out of those trucks. I mean, do we? Maybe it's not your department, but you handle the money, the finances. Do you know the life expectancy of a trash expectancy of a trash truck? How long it should last?
If you get 5 years out of them, it would be great to be
5 years?
with the
So
hydraulics.
every 5 years, every municipal is replacing trash trucks?
Most
Okay,
municipals got out of trash.
So
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Now you raise your hand. So previously, how long were all the trash trucks? Because I know for a fact that when I first got on the board, we needed a trash truck. So and the other one, how old was the other
I've
one?
been here 9 years, we've been through 3.
3. Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay, so my concern is, I heard the town manager in one of his comments he was making, he was talking about 45,000 in cutting contracts for grass cutting.
Yes.
So now, saying that, streets, I had talked to the department head, Jawan, a couple years ago about the same thing, about how we're outsourcing a lot of our lawn cutting. Could hiring a couple people in buying a tractor, a lawn cutting tractor for like the district park and things like large areas, could buying a tractor and hiring 2 people for the streets department, could we do that and do away with that contract with the current company we have for cutting grass? Because it was right at $100,000.
Correct.
And things didn't go the way, well, it just didn't go that route. But now, because we're in a situation to where if we do outsource our sanitation, we have 3 personnel, they'll go to streets. We're gonna have enough people to do our grass cutting. Is that an opportunity to cut our own grass without outsourcing, and that's $100,000?
I do not know the day-to-day of the streets. Maybe Stephen could answer that a little bit better, because I don't want to speak.
I think a lot of that stuff should have been presented, but the whole idea is, to continue providing services for garbage while increasing our services in the street department. So the intent is to have a full-time grass crew. I don't know, in year 1, I don't think you'll be able to eliminate all of those contracts. That's why we showed half. The current grass contract's $90,000. That's cemeteries, district park, all the downtown grounds, the right-of-ways and that kind of stuff. In year 2, you could look to capital budget, additional equipment that you could handle the backside of the park. They cut the front side as it is. The contract work goes toward the back of that. The biggest part of the contract is the cemetery. And again, over time, if you can get that standalone grass crew stood up, and then over time through your budget, add the needed equipment, then yes, you could eliminate that contract over time.
So you're saying that if, for instance, if the board adopted the contract with GFL, those 3 personnel would be moved to streets?
Correct.
Okay, what about the superintendent?
Jawan that's Jawan.
Yeah.
He supervises streets and sanitation.
Okay, so, and
You only, in sanitation, you have a crew leader and you have 2 sanitation workers. That's the employees.
So these positions, the jobs that these personnel, how long is the longest person in sanitation been there?
Currently?
Yeah.
A couple weeks.
Oh, that's we've got 3 new people in sanitation?
Pretty much.
Okay, so there is no difference in pay?
No, these when they transfer over, the intent is to switch them from sanitation workers to street maintenance workers. I think it's the same class in the pay scale. And again, not only would it allow you to put a full-time grass crew together, it will also give you the ability to put a full-time street maintenance crew together with 5 employees, because that work, it's a little more tedious. You've got to be in the street, you got to have operators, you got to have folks flagging, so there's a lot more to it. I can't just send 2 guys to work on street paving or potholes or that kind of thing. So the intent is to have that full-time grass crew and a full-time street maintenance crew. And again,
do you keep the personnel when they're going through town streets? Do you have a policy that there must be 2 people?
Depends on what they're doing. If somebody's doing, say somebody gets a work order to deliver trash cans.
Oh, let's say you're putting salt down.
There's
and you got the push cart thing.
There should be at least 2 people, because you've got, if you've got that one guy in that push cart, you've got to have somebody.
No, you walk behind it.
Right, but you also, if you're crossing the alleys or crossing that thing, there's usually 2 folks down there.
Well, that's what I was asking, is the policy.
Yep.
So you're pushing your cart, putting salt, and there's 2 people there, and 1 person pushing the cart, but their policy is 2 people will be there.
We like to have 2 people on the job site just for a safety factor.
Oh, I know, I understand.
Yep.
I was just asking, I was just curious.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. So we're saying here, we're gonna save we're gonna cut our contract, and we're gonna cut it by 45,000
Initially, yes.
first year. Okay. And that's at the precision contract?
Yes.
Precision,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Marshall.
No, you're fine. So in your packet, there was the draft budget, and I'm gonna hit the highlights of the changes, but I did want to, the last 2 pages, that was the Ayden debt at glance, the water. Miss Alicia spoke earlier. It's a little over $7 million that we owe principal, and the maturity dates, the earliest one that we can pay off is in 2028. So we are kind of exploring any ways that we can maybe consolidate that. I'm hoping to have some answers about that. But as far as the electric and general fund, it's the fire trucks. One rolls off next fiscal year, 2026, and the other one is the one that we just recently bought last year's 2029 for the fire. And then I wanted to bring your attention to the status of the riders that with the PCAs. The rider 122, where the town owed $781,000. That was April 2024 through March 2026, and then rider 1 through 23, $632,000 roughly. As of the end of April, we have paid back. We have collected $382,991 of Rider 1 and Rider 2 from Ayden customers as of the end of April. And then we still owe on Rider 1, 22, $391,000 roughly, and then Rider 1, 23, $474,000 roughly. Okay.
Marcia.
Yes, ma'am.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
On the debt at a glance, if we look down at under electric,
Yes, ma'am.
We have the 2024 service truck, and we owe around $15,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way that in our budget that we could pay that off early?
Yes, it should come off this year, this fiscal year, in December 2025. It's budgeted for upcoming.
Okay. I just wanted that, with that amount of money and what we're paying
And
in
interest.
interest, that if we can get it off our books before that date.
And we can look and see what we have left at the end of the fiscal year to see if there's anything. The truck, that's the 2020 Ford F-450 service truck. We owe one payment on it. That'll be paid in December. About 2020. So, yeah, we can look at that and see if we can save some.
It would save us if we could get that paid off early.
Yes, ma'am.
But that's just, I just saw that amount and thought if there was a way that we can adjust our budget, that we can get that off the books and then just have it paid off.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah, the water debt and the maturity dates are kind of scary to me. But
Yeah.
So I'm just
Which one, I'm so sorry, which one were you referring to?
On the debt,
Yeah.
under electric, they have a 2020 Ford service truck.
Okay.
through
2020, that's maturing this year.
Yeah, through United Bank.
The interest is 15,000 or 1,500.
Yes.
Shows the principal will be in 14. I said that's the one that we are going to pay off.
It's going to be paid off at the end of the year. I'm just asking. if
Pay it off early, yeah,
we
because of the interest.
Pay it off earlier.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Just little quick updates. So Tony, thank you. Okay, just your 4 major funds. I've deleted some of the slides just to keep it shorter. We had 7.2 million requested as of your civic deadline. The current draft amount is $6,762,000. As of right now, we do not have an increase in property tax. The draft budget fund balance needs $172,000 at this moment to balance. That does include the CIP keyless entry to the building that the fire department requested. We're not requesting any fee increases for the general fund services. That does include a $25,000 contingency fund. It does include computer upgrade, which I know that I'm going to give you the detail. I'm working on your request, so it's coming. There's just a lot of pieces to it. There are no new full-time positions in the general fund. The part-time position, we started out, we added it at the library, but that, we removed that. Our insurance rates, we're still working through some of our physical liability policies, but we were told by the league that to expect an increase. Also, increase in workman's comp. The COLA, the 4% COLA is still included, and the return of the merit pay up to 4%, which was totally removed in fiscal year 24. There's still no local donations. Tony, can you keep going a little bit? Sorry, I've been reading. Keep going. Reimbursable of services. So this number, when we make changes to the general fund, and out of the 14 departments, we have 8 departments that receive reimbursable of services through the enterprise accounts: electric, water, sewer, stormwater. You can keep going, Tony. This is roughly before the retirement rate that came back from the state, and also the insurance rates. This is what was budgeted. As you can see on the next slide, we had to shift some of that because of the difference in retirement rates, and also insurance. We're waiting on a few more quotes to come in, but we did decrease the health insurance that we had projected earlier. Keep going. We have decreased the amount of funds from the electric to general fund. That's still $550,000. That was an audit finding for the past few years. So we're decreasing that. Moving into the benefits, we've decreased the yearly per employee that is budgeted. The retirement rates did come out from the state. It's 14.35% state mandated for regular employees, and for law enforcement it's 16.08. And then we also have to include any certifications in any of our enterprise departments where in our personnel policy certifications allow the increase. This is the final valuation. Nothing has changed as far as the taxes goes. This was given to us on April 17th for the tax base. That's a breakdown from fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 26. We are collecting, due to our audit, 99% of what's projected for property tax. So again, fiscal year 26, the general fund, we need $172,050. That is a less than a 1% increase from fiscal year 25 approved budget. According to our fiscal year 24 audit, our general fund assigned fund balance was a little over 1.3 million, 21%. We should be at a 34%, and towns like Ayden typically has 64%. We are definitely limited on revenues, so the trash contract would be a very a great, easier way to increase the general fund balance. We have no cemetery spots for sale. We're only getting revenue from cemetery for the opening, closing, and the monument permits. We are expecting a decrease in the community building rentals moving forward due to the insurance required. We did receive a $50,000 grant to help us offset our new auditing firm accounting next year because we completed the AIM program. And that sums up the general fund. Not much differences in our enterprise accounts. The electric overall budget, CIP request for the electric, he is requesting the 2 positions to help round out some of the service calls. We're presenting to you earlier from Mr. Vandermoss about the time of use pilot program. We are requesting the increase from the 2,200 unit, which is what we charge today for the subdivision installation rate, to 3,000. So that would be a fee that we would need to approve.
Mr. Holliday, is that what you told me?
No, 2,500.
He said 25. I'm the one that said 3,000.
All right, so 2,500.
Yeah.
He said from 22 to 2,500.
25, okay.
Would be what you would need. Is it not just breaking even, right?
We would cover our cost on the large subdivisions. We'd be a little bit ahead on the small subdivisions.
Okay.
On the whole, we'd be a little bit too good.
Now, and I have, since Marcia's covering that, when you're doing the subdivisions, what is that? Is it, you mentioned 65,000 for what? That was a phase 3? What was that?
It just depends upon, no, that was Heart Estates.
Okay.
That was a little 27 lot subdivision right over here, off of Northeast College. And the materials were about $65,000 to put it in.
I thought there was one significant thing that ran $65,000.
No, that was the material, well, that was.
Transformer?
Not in a subdivision, that was the Pepsi plant. It was about $60-some thousand for them to get power there, that we charged them that they weren't inspecting. But that was done on a material plus 15% basis instead of subdivision installment fee.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that we're charging for what is needed for the infrastructure.
Correct.
You know, that we're not losing money on it, and then, you know, that we're not giving it away.
Not if we increase to 2,500 a lot.
I'm talking about major equipment too, you know, something that we have to pay that this being required, that it's being paid for. Okay, so yeah, he said 22 to 25. Not saying that we shouldn't, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be a little higher, but that's what the department head has requested, 2,500.
25.
Or recommended, yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead. I can go one. Go ahead. And get to water. Okay, so water sewer fund, roughly 4.2 million. We still have the 5 grants going. We talked about debt earlier. We did increase the contract amount due to CMSD. There's no rate increase with the noose. There is a one full-time position request and $156,500 for CIP materials. You keep going, Tony. The rates you heard from Ms. Alicia earlier, the 5 proposals, we just really need to know what the direction the board wants to do with the rates for the water and sewer. It looks like a 4% increase is what you need to maintain the trend that we have going. We can cover our cost. So with the next budget workshop meeting coming up on the 21st, we have to have public hearing on the June meeting and present the budget and adopt the budget in June. I just need from the board to tell me what you would like for me to put in this budget moving forward so that I can prepare for the budget workshop.
Well, let me ask you that question. Yeah, so you need, see, and it's unfortunate, but, okay, let's hear from the board. What do you think? Anything on it right here?
On the water and sewer?
Water and sewer rates is what she's talking about. You know, we've looked at, you know, what's been presented on several occasions to stay ahead without going in the hole on infrastructure and keeping the rates, and that's basically 4%. And not anymore, because, but we can go ahead, and if there's a change, if there is a change on the 21st, we can go ahead and, if the board is agreeable on it, and we'll take consensus on that. I don't think we need to motion that, on whether or not a 4% would be sufficient. Do we have a consensus on that, or she could add that into that? Commissioner Connor? Do you need more time, or are we doing a consensus tonight?
Just roughly be 4% would be increased about, the average would be, how much would it be?
Oh, I'd hate to.
Well, if it's $100 bill, it's $4.
$4, yeah. Depending on usage. But then, she presented that you could move you would get more water for your base if that was the proposal that
But
you all like.
there was a question on that too, because see, some people, for instance, because if you looked at the rates, it didn't separate commercial, small commercial,
Correct.
and residential. So with the AMI water meters coming in now, you have the base rate, and like my business, I'm just using me for example, I use less than 1,000 gallons a month. If you go to the base rate of 2,000 gallons, you're going to increase my bill from what I don't use. So sometimes the base rates are good, but with AMI, I think with AMI, I used 493 gallons last month. But I have the base rate. So there's a good and bad on that 2,000. So that may be something. And looking at the V6, the V7, where 4% across is what we've been doing. And we have to. I mean, when you have cost of living, going up, and we're kind of eating up people's cost of living, you know.
I get it.
So,
I just,
so what do you think, Commissioner Connor? You want to go ahead and have a work on a 4%? And then if we make a decision,
I am totally against any increase for anything, you know me by name.
yeah, oh no, I know, I understand, we all are. Everybody, nobody wants an increase.
Nobody wants
but
an
you can't-
increase.
But you've got to be able to provide the infrastructure,
Yeah.
so.
and she did use our data for, for the past 2 years, which, with the AMI system that,
Sure.
which, they're the experts, so they've really worked over the data for us, so.
Right, so what do you think, Commissioner Davis?
I think as of right now, just do the 4%, but when we come back on the 21st, if we had to change it.
Well, we still haven't approved the budget, so we're gonna do everything we can on the 21st to close it out so we can have the budget presented to the board in June. Okay, I think the consensus is 4%. You said also, Commissioner Bond?
It's fine, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Connor. I really like, as far as our utility rates, to kind of not do a lot with those because of all of the things we've already currently done with our citizens as far as our utilities and billing. And so, I'd like to kind of keep things at a quiet pace and, but, make adjustments elsewhere and not so much with the utilities, at least not for this current fiscal year. I would consider it for the next, but let's look at the numbers.
Okay.
Well, I agree, and unfortunately, for years, the town of Eden did not go up on rates, and that's why we got hit with a time frame where now we got to go up every year to get back where we should have gone up.
Every year.
Honestly, and all it's doing is, you got to get there. You got to keep it there. Or either you're gonna, if you don't go up through the rates 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden, the 5th year, you got to go up 20% to stay in business, and that's more hurtful than it is to gradually do it. Nobody wants to pay more. I don't either. I truly don't. But the bottom line is we have to keep the town running. So I would say the consensus is at 4%. And then on the 21st, if something major comes up, then we'll go from that.
Okay.
I have a question for Mr. Allengood. You requested 2 personnel, and you've been requesting 2 personnel for how long?
Several years now.
Several years. So let me ask you this question, and that's already in the budget right now based on what I saw. But let me ask you this question. If the board said, Mr. Allengood, you've been asking for 2 personnel for forever, and we understand why. Because you have 2 crews, and then if you have something come up, you have to send one. The crew gets broken up because you got to send one guy out to handle the situation, or whatever. If in a good situation, it'd be one guy. So if the board would say, Mr. Allengood, we see that, we understand that, based on what we got going on right now, we can't give you but 1.
If you could only give me 1, I'm still gonna run a service truck, but I'm gonna fill the other position on that service truck 6 months at a time off of my crews. But then once again, that slows down production for what I need those crews to be doing.
Understand what I'm saying? I would say, are you saying I want 2 or none?
No, I'll take whatever I can get, but if
Okay.
I don't get 2 this year, I'm just gonna put in for 1
But is 1 going to help you? Because 1 is a lot of money.
to a certain degree, yes, it would.
But you understand, we're looking at the budget. We're looking at what's being paid out of this town, the town of Ayden.
Right.
In salaries, the entire salaries is almost $5 million a year right now. That's a lot of money. And that's not even taking care of the town. That's just servicing the town. We're not talking about any infrastructure. We're talking about just salaries. $5 million a year, roughly, almost. So we've got to have enough money to not only pay the people, but to infrastructure. We got to, we have to have money to do our sewer. We got to have money to do our stormwater. We got to have money to do everything. And that's...
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it is balanced with those 2 positions in there.
Yes.
Our budget is for.
Yeah, but we're short $172,000.
Not
That's general fund.
No, I know it comes from a different fund. I understand that. But money is money. Money is money. And how much we take from the electric fund this year? $550?
The general fund, the
general
transfer
fund
was
is taking how much from the
$550.
electric fund?
$550 plus almost $1 million in reimbursable services, and then another
Well, we're taking a certain
$70,000.
amount of electric fund to balance the general fund. And how much is that?
Not the balance, but to pay back general fund for services that are directly related to the enterprise funds.
Okay.
Which that's legal.
Legal.
The other is illegal.
Yes,
Yeah.
we just need to make sure our transfers are underneath the threshold. And that's based off of the revenue and fixed
And our
assets.
threshold this year, based on and what's in the budget, is
Preliminary.
where we need to be, so we won't get a ding on it next year.
We hope so, yes, sir. We're going to do our very, very best. And we're working with the LGC with that and the league mentors.
Okay, so I'm sure we'll discuss, and you had on the stormwater and sewer,
There
or
is
water, they requested one.
Yes, and that is to, that position, they're already doing a lot of the meter reads and are catching active water leaks. They're doing a lot of the grunt work. That would be an admin/ops position, so that they're reading the reports, they're going out in the field, they are communicating with the homeowners and the businesses, saying, hey, you've got a leak. A lot of times people say, no, I don't have a leak, and we go back to them and say, you've got a leak. So previously, we were not catching that because we didn't have the manpower. We just need that position created so that this person can be in an FTE.
And one of those people that's coming off sanitation can be trained.
Well,
No, I heard about 3 no's.
Yeah.
it takes a lot of troubleshooting.
So you got somebody that's already ready to move into that position trained.
They're working through the job duties because we haven't had nobody doing it. So they're working through those job duties, those responsibilities. Tony, do you want to jump in on this? It's almost like a meter reader.
She's HR. Why would she know what you're doing electric?
Because the job description, the job duties. Anybody want to help me?
I saw the job position
Yeah.
that was being requested.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it was at $62,000.
That included benefits, retirement, and everything.
Well, that's what the town pays, $62,000. It doesn't matter what the employee gets paid, it
Correct.
costs us $62,000.
61.
So my point is, I got all these no's about that we don't have any, that 3 people from sanitation are not capable of being trained.
Okay, the requirements for the sanitation and the folks that we currently have there, as far as education-wise.
Okay, forget that. Go to what the requirement is for this position.
You have to have some clerical and some computer, some pretty, above
Detailed
average
industrial.
skills for this, to do the troubleshooting and installation and readings.
Mark, is
That's
the
why
guy
it's a
that,
part admin job.
is the guy that doing it now, doesn't he have an industrial 4-year degree?
He does.
In industrial what now?
Industrial
Systems.
systems.
Yeah, so it's not a manual labor job. I mean, there's
Correct.
some manual labor in it, but it's pretty high-tech
Troubleshooting,
stuff.
changing the
Talking about
meters.
AMI meters, troubleshooting them,
And
fixing them.
restarting the ones that's been pulled out that we need to, that don't need to go back to the company. He can reset, hopefully some of them, reset how many the gallons go from 1 to 1,000 gallons. Be the point person so that when we are going live, because Tyler is working on going live with that water portal, that this person would be able to get to the leaks quicker and let the homeowner know.
My main concern, and we brought this up many, many years ago, and it would always be on the table, we need to do it. We need to make sure personnel are cross-trained to do different jobs here.
Correct.
Because we hire one specialist, he's got a 4-year degree in whatever, and he learns how to do all this, and then suddenly he gets sick or he leaves. Now we have a position that we don't have anybody, we can't, it shuts down.
Correct.
So we need to ensure that everybody, just like if anybody leaves the town of Ayden, it should not stop the town of Ayden from running. I don't care who you are. Everybody is replaceable, and we need to have people cross-trained in all these areas. Now, okay, well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And this particular person can do the electric meter as well, and cash handling and volume down customer service.
So this is a totally new person. This did not come from an electrical department.
Yes,
Yes.
Started.
started in the electric department.
How long has it been in electric?
2 years,
Okay.
3 years. When?
He was a meter reader.
Okay, so we've got a person that's in the electric department already that can handle that position. And is it a step up based on the salary, or is it the same salary that he's working at now?
Same salary.
Same
but-
salary.
Mhm. But the position would be a step up if approved.
Is that pulling someone off the staff in the electrical department?
No.
So y'all are very heavy. I mean, you got an electric guy that you didn't need. He's helping. He's doing meter reader stuff now, right?
No,
Sir?
I'm not.
I mean, but you let a guy go that's been with the electric department for 2 years or more to go do other stuff. Does he still work for you?
No.
So you lost somebody and you only need two. I'm sorry, I don't understand the message. You lost someone.
Skill set.
Yeah,
Skill set without going into personnel issues. There's a skill set.
he's a good employee, just not maybe what Keith needs, that certain set of skills
Physical.
and abilities.
So he was hired with certain abilities, but he didn't keep the abilities, or? I'm sorry. Let's get out of that. Let's get out of that.
Yeah.
We're gonna back out. Go ahead and back out. Go ahead, Marcia. I'm sorry.
No. Okay, stormwater. We are looking to increase the monthly fee from $4 to $5 for residential, and non-residential 15 to 20.
Yeah, there we go again. Okay, question for you.
Okay.
Real fast.
All right.
All the buildings within downtown Ayden that does not have an electric turned on, do they pay stormwater fee?
They would have to have electric, wouldn't they, if they have the trash? We charge for all the services.
I mean, if we got a vacant building, the electricity is not turned off.
Okay.
Let's for example, Lee Street. The new developer came in and bought up the whole corner on Lee there from 3rd on, going down from 3rd Street, 102, on there where the Laura's Flowers used to be. He bought, a developer or somebody bought those buildings and did some rehab, and they've got signs up, managed by. So do those buildings, do they pay a stormwater fee?
I will need to double check. I do
They have
not.
an active account, and they should.
Say they don't have an active account. They don't have, say, because they're gutted, there's no utilities on, so do they pay a stormwater fee?
Would that go back to the vacancy tax? Like if you had, yeah, I'll need to get back. I'll double check.
Okay, because my concerns are, if you look at, especially in days like today where it's pouring down raining, there's a whole bunch of stormwater going into our drain coming off the roofs of those buildings, off of everybody's buildings. But the rest of us are paying for that stormwater runoff. And then we've got buildings that are owned that don't have a utility account that's live. They're paying property tax. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. But that's the only fee they're paying is the property tax. And they have stormwater running off those buildings, but there's no stormwater fee for those buildings, and there's 4 buildings. And I'm just picking those 4 because they're across the street from me. So that's at $20 or $15 now for stormwater fee. That's $60 a month that they're not paying, and going possibly to $20 a month. That would be $80 a month for 4 buildings that they're not paying. That's $1,000 a year. So I was just asking, do we collect stormwater on vacant buildings?
I'll need to double check that.
I don't think we do, because I don't see how we can enforce it. We can't cut their power off.
Right.
If they don't pay. The only other thing would try to be some kind of lien, and that wouldn't be worth the attorney's fees.
Correct.
Because we've got some much bigger fish, and it's still not worth the attorney's fees to put a lien on it.
Correct.
So we probably don't charge them because we have no way to enforce it.
Unless they have trash.
Yeah,
No,
but then
they-
they've got a live account.
Well,
Then they've got a live
more than
account.
likely they have none. And it was just a question.
No, and
Okay.
I'm trying to work through it, and unless they maybe have water turned on, and then that way they have a live
We can cut
account.
their water off and
Right.
not pay,
Right.
including their storm fee.
Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't.
I can put that on that
Okay,
email I'll
thank
send you. You're
Okay,
welcome.
Go ahead.
And that is really it for me. I just, wanted some direction so that I can prepare for the next budget workshop. You told me about the water, the 4%. Was there anything else that you could?
Marcia, I noticed that 1 or 2 council members have mentioned individually.
Yes.
They want us to, consider doing this or consider doing that. But obviously, that's got to be put to a vote.
Right.
And I guess they don't have to do it now, but can you think of some things that have been brought to your attention, like ideas, and see if the board wants to consider them, or maybe consider them next meeting?
Yes.
But it's something that's probably gonna have to be in the budget.
Yeah, the part-time library position was mentioned that one of the board members wanted to bring back, raising the commissioner pay. I'm trying to think what else. Supporting the chamber. I mean, there's just been different discussion items one-on-one that
So
we want to see.
you have a list, you have a list of those things, right?
Couple of the emails that I put together and just.
If you would, on our May 21st meeting, and then start out, and let's address those from the head, right from the beginning. That way we hit on them.
That way you're thinking about it.
One of the things that I had brought up to Scott Marshall was looking at our revenue base and also looking at some of our expenses. I had suggested to them perhaps we could look at our property tax. We've been kicking that can down the road for 5 years now, raising that to at least 1 cent. Also on the COLA, and it's not that we don't appreciate the employees, because we do, but based on how our budget is looking and how much we have to borrow from our enterprise funds and the fund balance, I would recommend the COLA at 3%, and also doing away with the merit, because I think merit can cause a lot more problems than it could solve by putting that onus on the supervisors to say, well, this person did a better job than that person, so they get 4%, but the other person gets 1 or 2. I don't think that's a good way to handle our supervisors and our staff. We have a staff now, from talking to all the supervisors, that work well together. It's smooth operations, and I don't want to see that monkey with, and I don't think the supervisors do either. So that was my recommendation, to look at those things. And so again, to increase property tax by 1 cent, to COLA at 3%, and do away with merit. And if we did that, what would our budget look like? That's my recommendation.
Okay, does that give you some information to
It
look
does.
at? Okay, so then I've talked to the mayor and I've talked to Commissioner Newell, and I have some information that they have given me, through conversation. But Commissioner Connor, do you have anything?
I just wanted to break down of the increases, like we're proposing the garbage fee to be from what to what. I just want to make a list of everything that we're proposing.
Oh, the fees? Okay.
And then the garbage is staying the same, it's
Okay.
not going up.
I thought you just was running off. You don't know.
Oh, no,
Okay.
the stormwater from 4 to 5 and 15 to 20.
Well, that's not on a commercial, though. I'm just curious.
It's the same percentage, I think.
I'm gonna let Stephen.
They contribute more. Now granted, downtown, there are some smaller than others, but on average, commercial.
My house is bigger than my building.
I said, on average, commercial buildings are bigger. The commercial fee proposed here is less than what I would pay for my house. So just in comparison to other places, I pay more for a residential structure than our max fee. At some point in time, and I know we've talked about it in the past, we need to get to a more balanced way of charging.
We had talked about per square foot,
Right.
up to
But-
2,000 square foot, X amount of dollars.
Right, but it's
10
funding.
2,000.
It's funding to do that.
It's what?
It's just the funding that it would take to have somebody build that system for us.
We would have to know the square footage of every building.
Every building, correct, and then, input it in our system and then maintain that in perpetuity, so.
I just think it's become very common in business to, when you put a B in front of, like you have, or a B in front of a building, it's business, and a house is residential.
Correct.
That we automatically charge more. For instance, I could switch out my green container, my garbage container I have one at my business, and I pay $27 to empty that. But my house, I pay $16. So I'm paying $11 more for the same container for the same service because I'm a business.
Correct.
And I think we take advantage of business, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But as far as the stormwater is concerned, I mean, we got, how much is Maxway paying? You know, are they paying the same thing I'm paying?
Now, in that, yes, and it's individually billed, you know, Maxway.
Each store is individual. I'm just
Correct.
thinking
Right.
Maxway has a large parking
Correct.
lot, major.
Correct.
And they have a lot more runoff than I do in
Correct.
my business, but they're paying the same stormwater rate that I'm paying.
Correct.
And the whole idea is you're paying for the runoff into the stormwater. But we're just not there. And, you know,
Right.
you know, but I do understand.
Yeah, again, just suggestions on how to generate more revenue. We've got, you know, right now, and just to throw it in there, stormwater-wise, we were in the process for chasing down some grants for 3 separate stormwater projects in town. The total of those 3 was roughly $5 million. 3 projects, $5 million. I think on the slide it showed our current revenue is $160,000.
Yeah.
You know, it would take us 50 years to handle those 3 projects if we didn't.
Well, remember, we didn't used to have stormwater either.
Correct.
We
You
didn't
know,
have it.
so, you know, it's a big balance, and we've got projects that we know we want to get done. We just have to figure out a way
Well, the whole idea
to
behind
fund those.
stormwater started off in one area and it's totally switched since its inception.
Correct.
At first, it was to keep the ditches cleared and do
Correct.
stuff like that for the stormwater, you know, for the creeks and all that stuff. And then it blossomed to a totally different area.
Correct.
But that's okay, that's the way growth is.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Steve, we appreciate it. And so Marcia,
Was that it?
yeah, well, she's gonna get the information on that. So, Commissioner Goff had mentioned that, she's recommending a 1% increase in property tax, a 3% COLA increase, no merit pay. Did you have any input on that, Commissioner Khan or Commissioner Davis?
I am totally against the tax increase. It
Okay.
has already been in the paper that.
There will be no increase. It was in there.
Look.
I don't know where they got that
I don't know where they got it from. So citizens are expecting that, but that's why I wanted to see what other fees were being raised so that I could kind of.
It's just right now the stormwater, the electric subdivision fee, and the water at 4%.
Yeah, the impact fees from 22 to 2,500, and that's for the developers, they pay that.
That wouldn't be individual
Yeah.
homeowners.
And did we get anything from, do we have any, and those are classified as impact fees, or what kind of fees are they called?
For installing the power.
Yes.
Subdivision development fee.
Development fees. Do we have anything from the water and sewer on anything for the new developments as far as fees are concerned?
Yes. You want me to steal that one?
Please.
Yes, on anybody serviced by the sewer line that was extended out 102 East pays a $2,000, it's called a system-wide development fee.
System-wide development fee.
On top of their connection fees, on top of everything else, that's a flat $2,000 system development fee. And the intent when the board put that in place over time, if those lots developed, you know, 2,000 times, I think it was projected at 1,000 would cover that $2 million loan cost.
So where we at?
We'd have to look at the revenues for house-wise. Yeah, there's probably 300 houses hooked into that new line so far.
So, but that money goes straight into the money that, for those fees?
Where's that development fee go?
It goes in the development fee line.
Back into the water, back into the water and sewer department.
Because I mean, that was what it was for, to pay for the $2 million.
Correct.
But we've got roughly $4 million totally since the first one was in the first of 2000, around the first, when was the first expansion?
The one that went to the 2008, give or
Okay.
take, that was for the first sewer line that went to the back of Ayden Country Club.
Yeah, and then we did another one in 2022 or 21.
Correct. Yep.
And that was another $2 million. So we got about $4 million out there, right, for sewer expansion.
Roughly.
So are we good on that 2,000? And that's good, that's where it needs to be?
we'd have to go back and look how that was established by the board when they did it. I don't know if it was tied to the development agreements that were done as part of that entire, I think you were on board when we did the development agreements on, we'd have to go back and look to see how that was set up. That may be a figure that you could change.
Okay. Well, if you could do that, and let's see, we want to make sure that, I mean, we understand, you know, we want people to make money, but we want to make money too. You know, we don't want to lose money. We don't want to break even, and that's why when Mr. Alligood brought in the new fees and everything from 22 to 25, I thought it was exceptional, because we've got an increase that's required, so let's do that.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're on the same side with water and sewer too.
Right.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Mhm.
Okay, so I did know that just my conversation with Commissioner Newell, and by all means, this is not his, you know, his words. It's just what we were talking about. He was talking about no COLA and no merit. I think the mayor will speak for himself. I think I got anything from him, but I do know that the across the federal government, most retirees and different federal employees got a 2.4% COLA increase. So I think, considering the last 2 or 3 years, we have some major increases, that I think myself a 2.4% to match the federal would be, because we are a government agency, we're a municipal, but so we do have a difference of opinion on that. So that's something that we'll have to bring back on the 21st for our budget. But if you could get those numbers that were mentioned tonight, that way we can just go ahead and go motion approve, you know, we can go through. But I don't think we have a consensus on the COLA right now, so we need to get that consensus, and then, but the decision will be made, whether, as long as we got a quorum, we're gonna make a decision. And I'm gonna promise you that. As long as we got a quorum, we're gonna make a decision.
Okay.
Okay?
So will we get those figures before we get them that night, or will we get them before?
I can send that to them.
Oh, yeah.
Can you do the numbers on a 2.4 and a 3%?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that way we see what the budget is on that. Okay, all right.
Can I ask you about the trash contract, because that affects 2 budgets and several lines? If, do you want me to, project approving the contract?
I
or-
suggest that we do that.
Okay.
But and like I mentioned to Scott, it was probably something that was not clear on the last meeting. The reason I want a public hearing on that contract is because I want the people of this town to understand what the board is doing, what we're doing on their sanitation. Because that's, believe it or not, some people don't mean that, it doesn't mean anything. Sanitation, whatever. But some people, it means a lot to have their garbage carried off. And then what we're doing by doing this contract, we're trying to save the town money, and I understand that. We really are, but you know, there's a difference. We either increase our rates to be able to cover garbage infrastructure, garbage trucks, the cost of insurance and everything for the guys riding on the back of the truck, you know, the big cost. We either got to do that, or we need to outsource it. So we just need to make sure they understand that, and to some people it may not sound like anything, but there's so many, you ride through this town on garbage day, you see what I'm talking about, and recycle day. There's stuff laying all around the containers. And people are gonna get really upset when their receptacle gets dumped, and then all the stuff is laying around, and the wind picks it up and blows it all over the place. So that's the reason I want to have a public hearing, and we can't have one into the next board meeting. So the town manager is going to make sure that happens. So we have a public hearing on outsourcing to a sanitation contractor.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Mr. Conley, you didn't talk to me about a retreat.
Oh, yeah, I will mention that when I made my comments.
Okay, she can mention her comments, yeah. Okay, thank you, Miss Marcia. We appreciate it. Okay, so staff reports. Anybody got any questions or comments on the staff reports that we had in our packet? I take that as a no. Okay, board member comments. Commissioner Davis?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I just hope all our mothers had a wonderful Mother's Day yesterday. Thank you.
Commissioner Gall.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who came out and for all of the input that we received tonight, which my brain right now is about ready to explode with all this information, but thank you for everything. Also, you know, those of you that are in the department, you know, if you have any feedback for us, you know, we would love to hear from you, make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page and that we're all working together. Because what we do here, we know affects you, affects your departments, and affects your personnel. So, you know, let us know so that we can at least know where to direct this train. So please do that. Again, everybody have a good evening. Thank you for coming.
Commissioner Connor.
Okay, I am grateful that I had the opportunity to attend North Carolina League of Municipality meeting a couple of weeks ago. And there I learned a lot. I was able to network with people from other communities in town and so forth, and I got a lot of helpful information that I will bring back and be able to utilize to help me be a better commissioner. I shout out to the police department. I have a meeting scheduled with whoever the policeman is assigned to Ward 5. We're supposed to have a meeting so that we can discuss some things. So I guess they're doing that for all of the areas. All the commissioner in town should know your policeman that assigned to your district, to your ward, and I think that's what they're supposed to do. You know, they're supposed to be meeting with one-on-one with the commissioner, and you can kind of discuss things in your area. So I think that's neat. Also, the Historical Society and Ms. Connor referred to earlier is gathering information about the history of Ayden, and those who have not had an opportunity to go visit the museum should go. And they're in need of material. You have anything regarding your family, any information about the town of Ayden, they would gladly accept it. Shout out to Minister Rose Daniel. She had a reverse birthday party where instead of people giving her presents, she was giving out things, and that was a way of helping the community. So I did get a chance to stop by there. The senior citizen had an open house, and a shout out to Michelle Winnie. I stopped by to visit. They're intermingling with them and made little flowers. I didn't make one because I knew I wouldn't mess it up, out of buttons. And it was really neat. But the time that she's busy over at the library, but she's busy in town also. And again, we appreciate the staff. I know I'm ready to get home just like I am. You have to spend extra time after work, even though you're still on the payroll, to come and the citizen of Ayden. And at the retreat, I had an opportunity at the League of Municipality. I had one of the classes I attended talked about a retreat. So I would like I don't know, we need to put it in the budget so that the staff could have a retreat. Town manager, I had talked to him about it. It will be inexpensive, but the facilitator sent me some additional information, and then she also said that we were welcome to contact her again so she could help us schedule it. So I would like the board consent for us to have a retreat. It's good to have a meeting, but a workshop retreat, I think it would be very, very beneficial for the board. How do you all feel about it?
Well, that's just the problem. I mean, I think it's a good idea,
Yeah,
but we want to get.
Depends on what.
Those details will be worked out by the town manager.
Because I think last year they had, we started with that retreat stuff, and they're going, we're gonna go to farm.
Yeah.
I just want to stay right here.
Yeah, that could be worked out, but just the idea, do you think you need one, then all those details could be worked out.
Well, anytime we can get all together and discuss things, and I think it's a great thing, because we don't get a lot of that time. So I think it's a great idea, myself. And the town manager took note of that, so. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, really appreciate everyone's patience tonight, getting our board meeting and everything accomplished. And appreciate the staff responding with a lot of the questions that were asked tonight. I do have one other question real fast for the water and sewer department. The water meters that the AMI water meters were put in, I do know that I had someone else mention it to me as well. I noticed in my front yard where I had my water meter cover, I didn't have a metal cover. I had like a plastic type cover, and it fit in the slot. There's a metal ring, a metal base going around my water meter. It's been replaced with another cover with the AMI meter, AMI receiver transmitter on top, and now I'm sitting about this high off the ground. Is there? It's nowhere near flush. It's probably about 1.5 inches above it, because it doesn't fit into that. Are we just doing that temporarily, or what are we going to do about that? Because I'm not the only one.
If you give me a work order, I can send somebody over there.
Well, somebody did it. Somebody came out and did it. I didn't call anybody to come out there and do anything.
How long has it been like that?
Probably at least a couple weeks or more, because I was cutting the. I'm gonna tell you honest. I can't tell you because I just had my grass cut, and I have a guy who cuts my grass.
When we put all the modules in, we had a contractor come in, and basically we took a bunch of meter lids, cut holes in them to save about $40,000 rather than ordering.
No, I remember y'all talking about doing that. But they put the wrong lid
and
back
some
on
of them
mine.
are not flush, some of them are a little bit different.
Yeah, mine's sitting about 1.5 inches above. It won't fit. I even tried. I was like trying to get it to go down in there, but the box itself, comes around. It's smaller than the lid. The lid is too big. It won't fit on it.
If it doesn't fit, I can make it right.
Okay.
What's your
I was
address?
just wondering.
What's your address?
3876 North Hills.
Somebody-
Right in the middle of the block on the left at North Hills. But no, I appreciate that. But it's sitting up about that much. And I remember it was flush. It was actually lower than flush.
Well, if the box settles, that module sticks out about that far inside of the box. So if the outside of the box settles at all, that lid's gonna sit.
Oh no, I understand, but I've been there 20 years, and if it's settled, unless it did like an earthquake, something moved it down. It's
We'll make it right.
been right. Well, I appreciate that, and I had a couple citizens come in and mention the same thing on their water meter. They were wondering because they hit it with the lawnmower, and they never hit it before, and now they're hitting it because it's so high. So, and you gotta avoid it anyway, But I appreciate your comment on that.
If they call town hall, make a work order, we'll come out and make it right.
Okay, sir. Again, appreciate everyone coming out, and belated Happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there. I've talked enough tonight, so everybody have a great week, and see you next month. Thank you.
May I make a quick announcement? This is on behalf
No, you can't. You already had your time. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, to put the timer on. This is for the benefit of the Chamber of Commerce, is for you ladies. They're holding a powder puff bingo, so it's just for women, which is going to be May 23rd. Now, men, you get to have a bingo all your own, and that'll be in June, a date that's yet to be decided. But we're also going to, the Chamber of Commerce is going to sponsor a men's bingo in June and women's bingo this month.
Thank you so much. And I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.